Thank you and good evening. Welcome to the meeting of the Hendersonville Board of Mayor and Aldermen for July 13th, 2021 at 7 p.m. We're going to begin as we typically do. That's with a prayer and a pledge. So please join me in prayer and please remain standing for our pledge. Let's bow our heads. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us together and thank you for bringing us here with the opportunity to serve you. Thank you for the wonderful gifts, opportunities, and the skills you've given us to serve you, not just here, but as we leave from here. And also thank you for the wonderful people that protect us here and the people who protect us far away. Help us to use the wisdom you've given us to do your work. Help us to use your wisdom to do your work every day. Help us to work together. Help us to show kindness everywhere we are. And please especially give your attention to John Sexton, to Carrie Lee Westendorf, to Celeste Davidson, and anybody else that may be in our hearts that we are concerned about. And as always, we appreciate everything that you give us. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. So please join me for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alderman Brown, were you going to make a motion to accept the agenda?
I am going to make a motion to accept the agenda, but I also would like to note that item D, ordinance 2021-27 does not, needs to be, that's correct, needs to be voted on. It does not meet the 2-week rule, but it is something that we need to expedite so it can be voted on in entirety by September 1st. I would also like to note there that we are required to put this disclaimer in there that the proposed ordinance requires certain materials to be restricted in the construction of buildings. I so move.
We have a motion and a second from Alderman Cunningham. When we get to that, we're going to ask a couple folks from our planning department to help us understand that. Alderman Brown, thank you for doing that. All those in favor of acknowledging item D, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. Appreciate that. Now we're back to the main motion of accepting the agenda. Any other motions? Actually, we have a motion from Alderman Waters to accept the agenda as, I guess, acknowledged, and a second from Alderman Robertson. All those in favor of accepting the agenda and acknowledging item D, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. We have an agenda. Thank you all. We have no presentations. We have 2 public hearings, but nobody has asked to speak on those, but let me go ahead and read these. We have a public hearing for ordinance 2021-18. It's to hear comments on the proposed abandonment of an unused public right-of-way known as Dwight Sherlin Court near the intersection of Stop 30 Road and Saundersville Road. As I mentioned, we have nobody signed up for that. Our second public hearing is for resolution 2021-33. This is to hear comments on a request by Bart Thomas to approve a final development plan for Mont Haven Place, specifically Hallmark Hyundai, and to add motor vehicle dealership to the list of permitted uses for the property located on the west side of Mont Haven Boulevard and to the south side of Comer Lane, as identified by Sumner County Tax Map 160, parcel 050.05. Also, nobody has signed up for that one. So next, I'm going to entertain a motion to approve our minutes from June 22nd, 2021. We have a motion from Alderman Hayes and a second from Alderman Dixon. Any discussion on our minutes from June 22nd? All those in favor of approving those minutes, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. We have nobody signed up for citizen comments. That is correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So, ordinance and resolutions. First item we have is resolution 2021-33. This is a resolution to appeal the Hendersonville Regional Planning Commission's decisions to the Mont Haven Place Final Development Plan, with the addition of motor vehicle dealership to the list of permitted use for lots D, E, and F. Alderman Peterson. I just need so moved.
So moved.
Okay, we'll come in a second from Alderman Campbell. I'll come back to you. This is a situation where we have a sponsor for an item because it has to be considered by the board. It doesn't necessarily express support for that item. We have this periodically, and I've explained in the past, and we have items that have to come before the board that we need to have a sponsor, of course, for it to come before the board. Alderman Peterson, being the representative from the Planning Commission, has agreed to do that. Again, that is no indication of his support or his feelings at all on those. Same thing with the person who seconded it. Alderman Campbell, I appreciate you doing that. That's helpful because we do need to get it onto the board and get it moving forward. Alderman Edwards.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules to allow a few members of
representatives from Monhaven to speak and give a brief presentation.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion from Alderman Edwards and a second from Alderman Waters. All those in favor of suspending the rules to hear a brief presentation from some folks representing Monhaven Arts and Cultural Center, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Should we go ahead and do that now?
Yeah,
You wanna go
I
do
would,
that?
yeah.
Okay,
Do that
okay.
now.
So please introduce yourselves when you all come up, please. Thank you. And pretty soon after them, I'm going to ask you to do the same, suspend the rules for our applicant, and also that when we hear from Keith Free and I think from Grant as well. So John, go ahead, please.
All right, thank you very much. Hopefully you can all hear me. I have a brief statement, and then we have brought a short video, and then our executive director, Cheryl Strix, is going to speak to you. Thank you. My name is John Pitcher. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the Monhaven Arts and Cultural Center. I am here tonight to oppose any action that would turn the amazing property in front of Monhaven Mansion into a car dealership parking lot. A little more than 2.5 years ago, I appeared before this board about a different matter, the need for our organization to receive a long-term lease to Monhaven. At that time, we brought to this board a vision of Monhaven Mansion sitting at the center of an expanded arts campus. This campus would provide space for an arts enrichment center where our citizens could study visual arts, music, dance, and more. It would also enrich the community and draw in tourists from everywhere to enjoy world-class art and entertainment events. After careful consideration, this board voted unanimously to approve the 25-year lease to Monhaven, renewable for an additional 25 years. It was no accident that this lease needed to be long-term. Building for the future takes time. And so far, I believe we have used our time well. In the 2.5 years since we signed the lease, the Monhaven Arts and Cultural Center has nearly doubled the size of its annual budget from $277,000 in fiscal year 2019 to more than $500,000 for fiscal 2022. And this funding is crucial because without sufficient funding, we would not be able to carry out our mission of providing arts, education, and enrichment to the community. Since signing the lease, we have engaged tens of thousands of people with our art exhibitions, including a one-of-a-kind Picasso exhibit that was as good as anything you could see anywhere in the world. Hundreds of school children now arrive on their school buses to see our exhibits free of charge. And we've been told that for many of these children, the experience has been life-changing. Providing arts education and enrichment is, of course, our core mission. Since signing the lease, the number of students taking art camps and classes at Monhaven has also grown at a rapid pace, from a few hundred students in 2019 to more than 500 students this year. We have been equally focused on our arts outreach program since 2019. Our arts teachers have worked with community partners like Children Are People to provide free arts classes to as many as 2,600 kids a year from disadvantaged backgrounds. And speaking of outreach, just last month, Dr. David Black and Congressman Diane Black, along with U.S. Pest and J.K. and Erica Brister, helped us stage a successful fundraiser for our newest outreach program, a healing arts program called Between the Lines. This innovative program will provide free art, music, and dance therapy programs to military veterans and anyone else suffering from post-traumatic stress. One other important development since signing the lease, in June 2019, MGM Industries purchased on behalf of our organization the 4 acres of land immediately surrounding Monhaven Mansion. That land is now used for all of our outdoor events and fundraisers and has been hugely helpful. And let me say that I also think that it has been hugely helpful that this board gave us that lease. I don't know that MGM or the Gaskin brothers, who own MGM, would have helped us in the absence of that lease. So I'd like to thank the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for that. Thank you very much. Back to the matter at hand. We've always known that our arts education and outreach activities would one day need a permanent home. And our goal has been to locate this part of the campus on the property now under consideration. The benefit of that location for us is obvious. It can actually help draw people in from Main Street to Mont Haven. The Arts Enrichment Campus would be front and center and not hidden behind anything. So where are we today with our capital campaign? Although many of us probably are trying to forget it, we all experienced a little something in 2020 called the global pandemic. The pandemic forced us temporarily to suspend our capital campaign so that we can focus instead on applying for PPP and EIDL and SERG grants, which left me with lots of PTSD. But we were successful with all of those grants, and we laid no one off. For 2 months, we paid our teachers to stay home and be safe. But that left us 15 months behind with our fundraising. That said, we are now playing catch up very quickly. We have reconstituted our capital and endowment campaign committee, and this time we are working with much more influential players. We're in the process of selecting a consulting firm that will help us with our own feasibility study along with our capital and endowment fundraising. After the experience of the past year and a half, we're leaving nothing to chance and we're professionalizing everything. So I'd like to thank you all for listening to me. I know the board will do what it thinks is right. We're going to try to do what we think is right for the future. And right now I have a short video of what we think that future looks like, and then our executive director, Cheryl Strichick, will speak with you.
Thank you, John. You're on, Jason.
One of Mont Haven Arts and Cultural Center's most prominent undertakings is our arts education. Our art school has over 400 students enrolled throughout the year. And last year alone, we had over 3,000 students that came from schools in counties as far as Macon County and East Tennessee. We service what I consider to be a large rural area. We've received notes and letters from students who express how much they enjoyed their visit and that it was the first time they'd been to an art museum. We find them sitting and gazing into the art, and it really is an incredible feeling to encounter this firsthand. Most rewarding in achievements is our arts outreach program. It is by far one of our most important missions to go into the community with our team of dedicated art teachers and make a difference. It allows us to give children opportunities they may not normally have. Children Are People is an excellent example. This is an after-school program in Gallatin, and every week our team creates a project with the students which helps them with artistic expression. It can really open the heart to new learning. It really helps them transform emotion into new, healthy, and creative energies. This actually can help change the community in which you live. We believe the arts as an outlet can really make a difference in a child's life. Our Healing Arts program is something we are passionate about. The launching pad for this program really was our Between the Lines Veterans Art Therapy. We do offer free classes as part of our outreach for Veterans Weekly, but our workshops for veterans with TBI and PTSD is an increasing focus as we see veterans who, through particular experiences, have difficulty expressing themselves. Our goal is to help them find a voice and tell their story. Exhibiting the work created from these workshops and making them available to the public would be a great way to educate folks to this method and let them share the work and honor their service to our country. Of course, our Healing Arts program will also include classes dealing with abuse, major loss, depression. The importance of Mont Haven offering creative expression through these workshops that can help you release and work through anguish is really monumental. It's hard sometimes to explain to people why it's important to be involved and help us continue the work that we do, because what we do is under the surface, but it creates a great balance in a community. It's a magical place to visit and a beautiful place to see art here at Mont Haven Arts and Cultural Center.
Cheryl, hold on 1 second, okay? We got to switch over some microphones here. There we go.
Can you hear me?
We can. Please
Okay,
introduce
great.
yourself and tell us where you're from.
I'm Cheryl Strichick, and I'm the Executive Director at Mont Haven Arts and Cultural Center. And first off, I want to say one thing before we get started. I'm the daughter of a car dealer a man who owned car dealerships. I love car dealerships. I love cars. This has nothing to do with anything anti-car dealerships. It's pro something really important. I'm here tonight to speak for our over 500 students that are in our art school today, our students in our outreach program, the dozens of individuals in our Healing Arts program, the over 3,000 students who came to the MAC on field trips from as far as Macon County and East Tennessee pre-COVID. I'm speaking for the veterans and their families that we provide art classes for. I'm speaking for the 60,000 individuals who visited us in just the last 2 years. But most of all, I'm speaking for the citizens of Hendersonville, and specifically the businesses, property owners, and residents of West Hendersonville. And you may wonder why I'm qualified to speak for them. Well, I've been a resident over 30 years, and 30 years ago, we owned a restaurant on Shivel Drive called HRH Dumplings. Some of you may have eaten there. It was a great restaurant, and it was a wonderful experience for our family. But, you know, the mayor at that time was Hank Thompson, and Hank used to come in and have coffee with us, and we would talk a lot about the growth going towards Gallatin, going east, and what it would mean to an area that already needed 30 years ago a facelift, and what it would be like if it continued the growth that direction, and what it would mean to the business owners in the West Hendersonville area. And we agreed that it was not necessarily a great situation that the future might hold. And it could actually, at some point, he felt it could, if neglected, Hendersonville could see an increase in crime and affect the property values of businesses and homeowners in this area. He felt it was important to have a noticeable difference in our city. And today, 3 decades later, the business owners in West Hendersonville still feel the same way that they did 30 years ago. Nothing's changed. It looks basically just about the same. And I think most of you will agree with that. The MAC brings tourists from well over 50 miles away on a daily basis, and a constant flow of Nashvillians from Germantown to Franklin. Some are members and they take classes, they attend our exhibitions, they come to our openings regularly. The result of this influx of non-residents leads to them wanting to know where to eat and cool shops to go to, and we direct them right down Main Street. We direct them to Cafe Rocca and to Blossoms and to Shannon's Boutique on Stadium Drive and to Someone's in the Kitchen and all the cool, fabulous places that we have that are unique to the west side of Hendersonville. We don't tell them to get on the freeway, or I'm sorry, 386, and exit anywhere else. We take them right down the main corridor, then we tell them about Indian Lake, we tell them about the chocolate-covered strawberry, and we send them right on into the beautiful town square in Gallatin. Because a tourist wants to find things to do. So we take them right through the corridor, right through that area that could use a facelift. Maybe that was not the plan. Maybe everyone thought with 386 and the West End being so haggard looking that people would just bypass the West End and go on to the new Hendersonville. Well, with exhibitions like Pablo Picasso, with exhibitions like Alexander Renoir, with exhibitions like the Vietnam exhibition we have today, Vietnam Then and Now, which is spectacular, and with exhibitions like the Royalty and Elegance, the Princess Diana dresses that open November 13th, we're going to be bombarded with tourists that are going to come right slap dab to the west end of Hendersonville. And I think that it would be pretty sad if when they drove in, the first thing they see is a sea of cars and a loudspeaker with a voice waving through the air while strolling our sculpture gardens, "Bill, you have a customer on line 1. Communities can be shaped by choice, or they can be shaped by chance. We can keep on accepting the kind of communities we get, or we can start creating the kind of communities we want. My daddy always said, great people plant trees they never sit under the shade of. And I am asking you today to help our citizens create the kind of community that we want. We are asking you to vote no to the parking lot and yes to the future of Hendersonville and our children. Thank you.
Cheryl, thank you. Barry, were you going to speak also? Okay. So I I appreciate y'all, and I want to entertain a motion to hear from the applicant in this situation. Sure, go ahead. Let me turn you on just a second here.
And I think we have some board members from Monhaven and some other people in support of Monhaven here. We certainly appreciate you coming, and I certainly appreciate everything that Monhaven does for our city, and I'm really proud to have Monhaven in Ward 3. So thank you very much.
Alderman Edwards, thank you. Alderman Cunningham, thank you. Alderman Hayes.
I'll second that, to allow them to speak.
So I'll make a motion that we suspend the rules to allow representatives of Hallmark Hyundai to speak. Alderman Hayes seconds that. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. Would you all like to speak? You've got no obligation to. Now's your chance. We may want to call you back later for some questions, but now's the chance to go ahead and give us a small presentation or anything you want to say aside from answering questions.
Thank you.
Alderman Hayes, thank you. Go ahead, guys. Do y'all need the screen for anything?
No, I believe hopefully everybody has the materials that we provided to you guys. Mr. Mayor, Alderman, thank you for your time this evening. My name is Gary Dodson. I'm the dealer principal for Hallmark Hyundai. My partner and the chairman of our company, David Andrews, is joining me here this evening. I don't have anything prepared, so I'm just going to speak from here and tell you that we started negotiating with the old owners, and we purchased this dealership in September of 2020. In March of 2020, we, like everybody, were faced with what was going on in the world and what are we going to do. But you know what? We really were excited about this business. We saw great opportunity and potential with the business, and we went forward. And the delays, the reason we closed in September were just delays from the manufacturer over COVID. But we never wavered. This is where we wanted to make our investment, and this is where we felt really this dealership was going to provide a really great business for us. So we closed on September 2020, and I remember one of our first visits, David and I were together, and the current owner, we were looking around and we said, you know, this is really a small place. Have you ever thought about expanding? And we made reference to the property right next door. And it was a comical thing. He says, you know, I've been trying to reach the owner of that place for a while. I've always thought it would be a good investment. And I thought, well, why don't you just call the sign that's right there in the field? It says for sale, call this number. Well, we found that property had been available for a period of time. I certainly want to applaud the Monhaven, this program you have, guys, going. It's really impressive and something that I want to maybe look forward to supporting in the future. From a business standpoint, we're in front of you today to say that we not only have enjoyed great success with this business, but it's really thriving. We are outgrowing the bounds of where we're at right now. We also, and we're not here today to talk about the expansion of our dealership with a new image facility that Hyundai's come forward. That'll come at another time. But we do want to move forward with a facelift and bringing that modern look to the dealership and expand our shop, in fact, double the size of our shop. In order to do that, we're going to have to take up almost half of the existing property to have the building expansion. We simply can't move forward with that project without this expansion of our new facility, our new vehicle display area. I want to, and I really appreciate this time because I think that there's not a clear understanding. We're not asking for a parking lot. In our business, this is the same as going to a jewelry and looking in the showcase and seeing this is our display of new vehicles. We don't plan on putting shop cars there. We don't plan on doing anything but putting brand new vehicle displays on this piece of property and really spending quite a bit of money on flowers and trees and refencing, and you see it in your information packet. We really will spare no expense for not only a new vehicle display area, but really a beautification of this area. If you see, it's in the pictures in the packet as well as driving by. This is not a very well-kept piece of property. It hasn't been since we've been there, and in our understanding, it's been in that condition for a period of time. So we really want to say this is tying into growing our entire business, as well as we really feel like a real beautification opportunity for this area. And before I close, and David may have a few words, I just want to touch on two business pieces, and these are certainly just estimates that we've penciled in, just from a business perspective. And this is just pertaining to the expansion of the new vehicle display area, not tying into what the additional revenue we can generate for this city through our business expansion. But just the property tax alone, we estimate would be nearly $10,000 more per year with the expansion of, with the development of the property, as well as a $1.8 million per year additional tax that we will collect over the additional new vehicles that we plan to sell in this area. From a personal standpoint, I want everybody to know as well, too, that this investment is personal to me as well. My nephew is our general manager. His wife runs our office. We've got many family members that have been working at this dealership for years. And as I look around this room, there are customers who are currently doing business with us and who have over the years. We are a community business, and we really, really want to build something that I hope everyone here will take as the gold standard of which you hold any, not just car dealership, but business that wants to come into this community and build in it. Thank you for your time.
Gary, thank you for those thoughts, and thank you for these few moments to share this with you. So I've been in the car business now for 50 years, and that really scares me when I think about how old I got to be in the car business for 50 years. But anyway, so the communities that we operate in are very important to us. We challenge each general manager to pick a charity in that community, to not pick a charity in another far community or in Memphis and somewhere else that we operate in all. But today we operate in 6 states and 18 locations. In 2014, our company in Memphis, City Auto, was given the #1 philanthropic award for all of Memphis. We bid out FedEx, we bid out AutoZone, we bid out International Paper and all. So what we do as a company is we challenge our general manager to pick a charity. What charity? In your community, we support the Boys and Girls Club in Huntsville. We support the YMCA, the Boy Scouts, St. Jude, Le Bonheur. We make a difference in the communities we operate in, and we care. About 2 weeks ago, we had a fundraiser in Franklin for Dare to Succeed. We raised $200,000 for that charity. We'll do the same thing in Hendersonville because we care about the community and the people we operate in. We've been doing that, and we're not going to stop. In 2020, even during the pandemic, we raised over $500,000 for the communities we operate in, and that's the difference in us and other companies. But I want to speak about this project just a minute. This represents a $7 million investment on behalf of myself and Gary Dotson that we go to the bank and we guarantee personally to be invested in your community. I think this is an excellent project. We want to go overboard. If you see something we need to change about this project to make it better, we'd be glad to. This gives us the ability to go back to Hyundai and ask them for the Genesis franchise, which is our high-end franchise like the Lexus franchise. But we believe in this project, and I would appreciate your support for it. I'll be glad to answer any questions you can.
Appreciate it, guys. We have one question already, and that's from Alderman Dixon.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for speaking, and thank you, Mr. Dotson, for speaking. I don't really have I do have a question, but I want to preface it with a very important point that neither of you have really brought out, and I think
Okay.
the board needs to address it, that you have said that this will bring 11 new jobs to the city as well.
I think it's more like 15 in it, Gary.
In the package, it says 11. It says 5 sales personnel, 4 technicians, 2 administrative positions, which is 11 new jobs to the city. I just wanted to make sure that we brought that point out tonight. What I want to know is, would that be immediate upon your expansion, or do you have a timeline for bringing those 11 positions on?
That would be immediate. As soon as we start our expansion, we're adding shop space and sales space to bring up the Hyundai to the new image. And we can't sell the cars that we need to sell. In other words, we own a business in Murfreesboro, an auction, dealer's auto auction. We've got 8 locations nationwide. We're having to haul cars back and forth to Murfreesboro to park those cars, which is really expensive. It's $50 each way just to do that.
I'm
Not
sure.
to mention you put miles on a new car to get them over there. But yes, it would be immediate.
I'm sure. Okay. I think that's, well, I did want to ask about stormwater runoff. I didn't see anything
It's
in.
all underground detention.
Okay,
I think, what was the price of that, Gary? Wasn't it extra, Alan, what was it, extra $100,000?
Yeah, a couple of $100,000
Okay.
to put the
Okay.
stormwater underwater to detain it till it can run off.
Okay.
Hold on, I want to explain. So he said a couple $100,000 extra. That wasn't said on a microphone, so that's why I'm repeating it.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a couple $100,000 extra to put the
Thank you,
water
Mayor.
underground.
Appreciate that. Okay.
great.
Okay.
Thank you
And,
so
you know,
much.
since we've been talking about doing this, the Dodge store, which is an eyesore for Hendersonville, is talking about remodeling and building a complete new store in this
Awesome.
location because of what we're doing on both sides of them.
I just, thank you so much. I think that it's important that we give this serious consideration due to the increased sales, helping you expand your business. You're the only new car sales in the city of Hendersonville, and we appreciate your presence.
I
Thank you so
appreciate saying that,
much.
and we care about the community we operate in too. Thank you.
Alderman Dixon, thank you. I'm going to ask in just a second, I'll go to Alderman Cunningham and Alderman Edwards in just a second. But in just a second, I'm going to ask Keith and Timothy to come forward and sort of tell us what our options are here. Alderman Cunningham, do you want to speak first, or do you want to have them come forward? Oh, okay. Hallmark guys, come on back. Sure, I think it's a good time. Alderman Cunningham.
Hi. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, I went through this with a fine-tooth comb. I have a few questions. For question number one, it says that you have two off-site lot, and I'm a loyal customer, by the way. And
Thank you.
Me and my husband. You have two off-site lots right now. Where are they located?
One of them, as David pointed out, is in Murfreesboro. So we've got the auction down there. It's a large piece of property that we keep some vehicles at. And David, you're going to have to give me an address, but there's a business that's
Is it in Hendersonville?
correct.
And are they for new cars?
Yes.
Or used cars?
New cars.
They're all new cars?
Yeah, so this is a business that has some additional space behind a kind of a warehouse-type industrial area that's just, we're renting really just a fenced, they're not on display. You can't see them from the road.
Hold on one second. Keith, where is it? You just want to shout it out? Oh, really? So do you
Well,
know,
it's-
do you know what the location is?
I don't.
I don't know the address, it's on Industrial Park.
It's on Industrial Park Drive. Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's
Right.
also in Ward 3,
So we're,
too.
so we're experiencing not
Close
just
by.
the expense, but really that additional traffic of zipping these cars around that is, there's always a little liability when you're moving things that you don't need to move.
Okay, that was my first question. My second question is the potential for a Genesis franchise. Now, I know the Genesis franchise down in Cool Springs has to be a separate dealership, is that correct?
That is correct.
Where would you put that, on the same property?
Well, that's not our plan, and that's not what we're asking for, and we haven't been offered that Genesis. We hope that our production and the relationship that we build with Hyundai will offer that. At that time that we're offered that, we'd like to explore looking at that and bringing in and see if anybody's open to doing that or finding another piece of property to do it. This is in no way all we want to do right now is just expand our business and move it here. But this, what I think we want to have everybody clear to is, as we grow our business, there's other business opportunity that we can bring to.
Okay,
This
I
is where we want to
understand.
do business.
Okay, not my last question, but I have a few more. As far as your expansion, per the new plan with Hyundai, you want to knock down the existing facility and build a new facility? I
No,
mean,
ma'am.
tell me
So,
about that.
Right, so this is really exciting. So I'm sure everybody's here is familiar with these franchise, new facility movements that go through the years. Well, right now, Hyundai has been on this new path with, and it's, again, there's some shots in your packet of what
Yeah,
it
I
looks
saw
like. So
that, yeah.
it's a remodel, it's not a rebuild, we're not going to take the building down. So it's a new fascia, new glass, all new interior components that just move and bolt onto the existing facility, and then quite a bit of interior work. The biggest piece that's most exciting for us is the expansion of our shop. We've got a small shop with 6 bays. We'll be able to bring the shop back and be able to service. I mean, we really have some delays and some really customer inconvenience issues to expand the shop in the back. That's really what's going to take the large swath of the property that the dealership currently sits on, which we really will hinder us from doing that if we can't have spots to park the new vehicle.
Okay, my last question, I'm finance, so you mentioned $1.8 million additional sales tax revenue.
Correct.
And this might be a question for our finance director. how much of that $1.8 million would the city be looking at to get? Is Robert here? Excuse me? He's in the other room? Okay, I would be interested in how much of the $1.8 million would be, because some of it goes to the state, some of it goes to
Absolutely.
the county, some
That's
of
why
it
we
goes to the city.
chose- yeah, we
So I
chose
would like
not
to
to-
know what our share of that
Yes.
would be.
And I want to be specific, that is just on the increase of the new car sales.
I understand that.
Because there will be some additional revenue as we grow our shop and have those
Correct.
services taxed, but we wanted to really stay specific to the project.
Okay.
Hold on one second.
Robert,
Yeah, y'all might
can
want to
I
sit down with
ex-
Robert. Go ahead. Do you want to explain the question, Robert?
Yeah, do I need to suspend the rules
Yeah,
again?
Robert's good.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
You
you.
guys.
Sorry about that. I was spectating from the conference room.
That's okay. Robert, did you hear my question?
I
Okay.
only caught part of it.
With the expansion, the Hyundai dealership is saying that it'll produce an additional revenue of $1.8 million in sales tax. How much of that would be the city's share of that sales tax?
So for items like this, there's only a tax up to a certain dollar value. I would be remiss to give an amount, just depends on what is being sold and.
This would be new cars.
Right, correct. I just, up to about 3,200, I believe, is the limit on sales tax
Per car?
per item.
Okay,
So.
per sale.
Correct. So, it would just depend on how many vehicles that is out of that 1.8 million. If you were to sell the most expensive on the lot to reach that, or something lower, there would be more vehicles if they were a lower
Okay.
dollar value.
I hate to put you on the spot
Sure,
with this.
I understand.
And I probably should have called you this afternoon to ask you about this.
Right. I'm not sure where that number's coming from, to be quite honest, but.
Well, it's based on, how many additional vehicles per year would that be based on,
We need you to go up there. Thank you.
please?
So when we took over the business, you can see it in the packet, the dealership was averaging around 40 units a month. We anticipate with the additional inventory to move our sales to 160 a month.
Okay.
We currently are already selling over 100, so I know what you're thinking, wow, that's a pretty big jump. We're 3/4 of the way there now with current facility. So 160 vehicles per month to get to that additional
So
tax.
160 additional vehicles per month?
I'm sorry, 160 total new vehicle sales as opposed to the 40 that the business was averaging.
Okay, so
You
that
feel
would
like
be
you're
an
at 100 right
additional
now, though.
120?
Hold on, but you feel like you're at 100 right now.
We're over 100 right now.
So additional approximately 60.
So 60 times 3,200, is
Rob-
that our share?
Robert's got his calculator right now. So what happens is these local sales ends at $1,600.
But don't we get
The state sales continues to go on. Is that right, Robert? The state sales tax continues to go on. So we only get local sales from the first 1,600, and a good portion of that goes to the county. Can you take a stab, Robert?
Sure. At a dollar value, I don't have that quite yet,
Okay.
but I was just going to back what you were
Okay. saying,
yes. About 50% of the local sales will end up with the county, and then of the state portion, that's really based on population. So I don't want to be too forward in saying that really wouldn't count other than just a portion of how large we are
That's a good point.
as a result of how large the state is for that.
So I'm figuring out of that 1.8, our share is going to be a little bit less than 200,000 additional revenue, is that correct?
You want us to give you more time?
That would be great.
Okay.
Sorry.
Or is that not right?
Alderman Cunningham, why don't we come back to you? Let's let Robert have a few minutes.
Okay,
And I will try not to forget you.
I think I got, or maybe 192, maybe it would be a little under 200 times 12. Is that right?
I'm getting, again, these are very rough estimates. I'm getting somewhere around, for local sales tax, around $100,000.
Okay. All right.
But I'd feel more comfortable with a little more time to
Plus the
research it.
plus the additional property taxes.
Right, that's, I'm not talking about property tax
Okay,
at all.
all right, thank you. Thank you very much. You've answered my questions.
Robert, thank you, good work. Thank you, Alderman Cunningham. Alderman Edwards, then we'll go to Alderman Hayes.
Okay, briefly, Mr. Dodson, I had a couple questions, if you don't mind. Okay, so let me ask you a question. You mentioned that there's potential increase in property tax value. You said $10,000 a year. What did you base that on?
So these are estimates that our CFO pulled up. He had current property taxes, again, this is just on the expansion project, of 5632, and estimated that with the improvements, the property tax would move to 14,128. I can't speak to his calculations. This is just the research that was pulled, again, from current to proposed.
Okay, and is that $10,000 for the city? Or is that county
This is
and
the
city?
increased dollar amount that we would pay. I can't speak to the
Okay.
distribution of how those funds go.
Probably about a quarter, that would be the city. Robert, is that a good rule of thumb, about total property tax, about a quarter would come to the city?
Okay, so $2,500, okay. And, I mean, you're getting more inventory, but just because you have more inventory, there's no guarantee that that's going to increase sales, right? Just because you have more supply?
Well, in our world, it does equate to that. So and certainly we're all aware of the times that we're currently dealing with. He or she who has the most sells the most. But this is a fast-turning product. This isn't a very expensive car. We currently have grown our business over double of what the previous owner had. I mean, we feel completely confident that these are not only, these aren't stretch estimates. These are reasonable estimates.
What I appreciate, I mean, I appreciate what you do for Hendersonville and the increase in sales tax we get and all the benefits we get from Hendersonville. I have to ask these tough questions. And, well, have you looked at other areas, such as, are you familiar with where Tractor Supply is on Centerpoint Road?
Yes, sir.
Have you looked at it behind that area, potentially maybe having a parking lot in that area?
So we can do business and remove our cars to an off-site hidden storage lot. I mean, we'll have to do something to do this growth. Rarely in my business is there ever basically continuous property that you can grow your business on. It just almost never happens. And this is really an opportunity that hardly ever affords us at any location. And it's here, and this is what we'd love to take advantage of.
But that area behind Tractor Supply, that's adjacent to Hyundai, right? I mean, it's pretty
No,
close
sir,
proximity?
it's across the road.
Right.
Right. I mean, we would have to cross the road, and there's no visibility of it, so it doesn't provide any display area for us.
Okay, but this parking lot isn't directly adjacent to Hyundai, isn't there? You have the Dodge store that is in between it, right?
Correct. The Dodge store is in between.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Alderman Edwards, thank you. Alderman Hayes, do you want to hear from Keith Free and Timothy first, or feel totally up to you?
I just want to make a comment.
Let's do it.
My heart is racing because I love Mont Haven. I love the arts and the education that goes around that. I love the video. Also, I got a call from Miss Sandra Gaskins this week, and I don't want to disappoint Sandra. But I also am a car guy, and I'm so appreciative for this dealership's ability to turn in all of those sales taxes. And there's also employees, and there's property taxes that you're paying. And also, even though I've never met Mr. Andrews before personally, I have been an auctioneer for the Boy Scouts of America for a number of years down at the Land Rover dealership. Is that your dealership? Okay. I do know that you have a heart for philanthropy. And I just wonder if there may be, I don't think we can do it tonight, decide it tonight, but I just wonder if there might be some compromises made or some partnerships done between your philanthropy and Mont Haven's desire to build out. And so I don't have the answer, but I'm just so torn with this decision because I love Mont Haven, and I also am so grateful for all the sales tax dollars that are brought in. For us that are elected up here, what that means is that our property taxes, we don't have to lean so heavily on property taxes. And a few years ago, it became evident that our sales taxes are greater than the amount that we collect for property taxes. And that's awesome, because it's like a user tax. So that's one reason, another reason I'm a car guy. I appreciate it. I've had businesses, I've collected sales taxes and sent them into the state and the city, and it's a very competitive business. So I just appreciate you all, and I appreciate Mont Haven, and my heart's still racing, but thank you.
Alderman Hayes, thank you. Alderman Waters.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to hear from our auctioneer before I don't go any further.
Who start me off? We go 35 now, we go 40.
It's scary how easy that was.
That was not planned.
We didn't plan that, did we?
Yes.
Did we plan that?
No, we didn't.
Let me ask you a question, Mr. Dodson, if you don't mind. I had to say that because I know he can do it.
Yes, sir.
Now, I'm going to ask you some questions that's probably as dumb as a rock, okay? That's usual for me.
The only dumb one's the one you don't ask.
Who said that?
I heard it.
Okay, your request will allow you to have more vehicles on display for your customers, right?
Yes, sir.
Explain to me why you would want to put all these trees and shrubs and bushes all down Main Street and block all these beautiful cars that you're going to have out there for me to look at.
That's an awesome question. You know, my heart tells me I want those cars elevated and shining and looking really great, but that's not what's going to work for this project, for this community. We want to be very respectful and partnering with what we want this display lot to look like and what we want the exterior and so this is a combination, what we feel the community requests and demands that molds with what we want to build. That's my answer.
Well, I don't accept that answer because I drove to Gallatin today, and we call that motor road up through there from here.
Yes, sir.
Your competitors, every one of them, you could see everything they had driving down. You could stop and look at it. So I'm sort of confused as why you'd want to cover up your vehicles that you want us to award you with extra space, and then you go and hide them.
Okay. Two things. First off, I don't think y'all going to let me go forward with my project if I don't do that, so we're going to. The second thing is our business is a digital business. Having that vehicle on the lot, our folks already know we have that many. They've already gone online. They see we have 300 cars to choose from. We're going to get aerial drone footage to be on our sites. We do run a very high-class organization. We have all of our associates with tablets. We don't have loudspeakers on the building currently, and we don't plan to put any on there. But our customers already know that we have that many vehicles on the lot before they show up. So when they show up, we have.
I wouldn't know.
Well,
I wouldn't know.
We'll also send
I don't know if I'll buy one from you because you're going to hide them from me. So I've got to get out of my car. I got to come around there and drive around there and see what you got to offer me.
So we are still going to have our dealership.
Let me move on.
Yeah, all right.
Because we got to get out of here. I noticed in your display area, you're still showing in and out on Main Street. Now, we discussed this in general committee.
Correct.
And you and I agreed that you was going to take that out.
We are not planning on making any Main Street exit or entrance or cut whatsoever.
Why is it still in here?
Well, I'm going to have to let go of our display folks, but that is not the plan, sir.
Okay.
Hold on one second, Alderman Edwards.
Another question.
Hold on just a second, Alderman Edwards. I think we have a better explanation. Introduce yourself and explain your role.
Yes, sir. Andy Leith, the civil engineer on the design project.
Thank you, Andy.
And Mr. Free may speak to this as well, but we have resubmitted the FDP with that missing, or with that entrance taken off.
Okay.
And the site plan, we also went ahead and are gambling a little bit, and we submitted the site plan with the entrance removed as well. So it just didn't get onto the presentation, but it has been done.
Keith, is that good enough at this point? Okay. Because what's on file is different than what we're even though what's on file is different than what we're looking at. If you want to shake your head, we'll get you up here in a minute. Okay, thank you.
Keith, would you come to the mic?
And Keith, if you could just answer this one first, then we'll have you do a longer explanation in a few minutes.
I'll make this one short.
Okay.
What that is, Alderman Waters, is in your packet, you've got everything that went to the Planning Commission. So some of those drawings that you're looking at, that's all that stuff from the staff report from the Planning Commission, where it was denied. And then since then, and since the meeting at the General Committee, where they talked about removing that exit, then they provided additional drawings, and you have those as well. So it could be a little confusing, but you've got all of that information from what was previously at the Planning Commission, and then these additional changes that came since the General Committee meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, so everything's good on that with the entries.
Okay, on down further, they've already got a drive, I think, coming out. Are they going to keep that driveway there?
Now, on Main Street?
Yeah.
No, sir. It just would be, they'd be limited to, at this point, actually, there'd be 2 drives on that, is it Comer?
Yes.
Yeah, on Comer behind there, they would have to have 2 because I think fire actually would require 2. And we've talked to them about this morning, and they understand that they would have to provide 2 off of Comer.
I'm just concerned about the ones on Main Street.
Yeah, nothing on Main Street.
All of them will be closed.
All of those will be closed.
Okay.
Alderman Waters, hold on. Hallmark guys, anything there you want to add there? And I'm not encouraging or discouraging you from doing that. I just want to make sure that Keith is answering that question to your satisfaction. There's no disagreement.
No disagreement. That is our agreement and understanding. No Main Street cut whatsoever.
2 on Comer.
2 on Comer.
None on Main Street. Okay, Alderman Waters, back to you.
I want to hold, and I have some questions for some people at Mount Haven. I can come back, or I can talk to them now, whatever you want me to do.
Let's do it now.
Do it now.
Okay.
Who was the lady?
Cheryl?
You made a great impression on me.
Oh, thank you so much.
You said you was kin to one of these people?
Well, I mean, I have no animus towards car dealerships. I think they're wonderful, and I have probably waxed the hoods of more cars than probably any guy they got there, because my daddy had a car dealership, and when I was 14 years old, that's how I spent some of my weekends. So it
Okay.
has nothing to do with the car dealership. It's
Okay.
that we don't want it,
Let
yeah.
me move on, because the mayor's looking at me. Looking at your video, which is great.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's wonderful. Do you have these classes every day?
Yes, sir, every day.
Do you charge for them?
Some of them are charged, and then our outreach and our healing arts is all worked through grants, and they're not charged. And then all of our outreach is free,
You do it every day?
every day.
How many?
Well, right now, we have 250 students that come in different times, like today. Yesterday, we could have had 45, today we could have 20, the next day we could have 6. You know, it changes depending on what courses they take.
That's a wonderful project you got there.
Thank you very much. We think it's
I
really
didn't know it
incredible.
till I just saw it just now.
Well, I'm glad. I think that's been part of the problem. I don't think everybody understands what we're really doing at Mont Haven Arts and Cultural Center.
It touched me. Okay,
Thank you.
let me move on. The for sale sign, it's out there in that property. Who is that?
The for sale sign is the Sadler Brothers. They own the property. I mean, it's Gary Coleman, I believe, is the realtor.
They own the property that this?
Yes, sir. The Sadler,
Okay. Is Mont Haven interested at all in buying this,
absolutely.
in that property?
That's where we want to put our school, our Arts Enrichment Center.
Why haven't you made it known to us before? That's the first I'd heard of it.
Well, we have been letting it known. As a matter of fact, we have been very much letting it know. We kind of did things backwards, but right when 2020 came and we were starting our capital campaign for the seed money and everything, it had been for sale, all that land, for over 25 years. We had spoke with the Sadlers. He had come to Mont Haven. We were very much wanting the land, and we really didn't know there was a contract on it. We thought that now that we're revitalized our capital campaign now because we got through COVID. You know, we went through 15 months where there was no one talking to us about anything financially.
I understand that, ma'am. We all went through that.
I know, yes.
But you can't attempt to buy it now because it's under contract with these people, right?
Yes, well, we can't, in other words, until you guys make a decision,
Oh,
we can't do
I
anything.
understand that part, okay. Now, let's say that this is denied. Would Monhaven do anything about these terrible fences and bushes and stuff down at the street that I see every day I go by there? Would y'all do me a favor and clean that up?
Well, of course. Part of the most important thing we can do as we build an arts enrichment center is for it to be a space that would be accessible for all of the community, children, handicapped people, everyone. So we would have to make the space extremely accessible. Also, it would be important for it to be beautiful to the people that are driving into Hendersonville. That is the entrance to Hendersonville. It is the entrance from Nashville, and the first exit into Hendersonville is Center Point Road. So when you get off and you turn there, the first thing you see is the Hyundai dealership, and then you see Monhaven on the left, after the Dodge Chicken Store, which has great chicken. But anyway,
One last question.
yes, sir.
Does the city receive any revenue from Monhaven?
No, we don't. We're a 501c3.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Appreciate that, Alderman Waters. Alderman Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question for Mr. Thomas.
Who's Mr. Thomas?
Hi.
Mr. Thomas is a person that works with our firm that.
Oh, I'm
just
sorry. What's your
negotiate-
name?
Gary Dodson.
I'm sorry, Mr. Dodson. I'm Lee Peterson. There is property behind the Dodge store, but I don't see it on this map. Have y'all looked at buying that?
We have had some discussion with those folks, yes.
And
Are you talking about to purchase for our expansion?
Yes.
Only? I mean, there wouldn't be enough right there for us for it to work.
how much land is that?
The proper, well, it's 3.7 acres for the expansion project.
Well, I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about the property behind the Dodge store.
Yeah, the property behind the Dodge store is this strip that just goes directly behind there to the road. We've been in some discussion about, and this is a future discussion, about some continuous access to bring it across, but we have not had a discussion about purchasing that just to be our only expansion project. No, sir.
Okay, how much land is that?
I don't know.
The entire Dodge site's 2.2 acres, so if you take the storefront away from it, you're less than 2 acres in the back.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's all I have. And I have a question for Director Free, if I may.
Should we do that now? Because he's going to come up and he's going to give us an awful lot of information in a few minutes.
I have just one quick question. If this is not zoned for a new car lot, is there any property in Hendersonville that is zoned for a new car lot?
Yeah, this property currently, what we're looking at with this final development plan and the request for the added use is general commercial plan development. Any property that is general commercial without a plan development, a car lot would be, a new car lot would be acceptable as far as a permitted use.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Alderman Peterson, thank you. Alderman Robertson.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Dodson, question. I have a question for you and then some comments.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me. If this is not approved by the board tonight, are you currently looking at other property in Hendersonville to meet your need?
No, sir.
If the board fails to approve this tonight, will you still continue to do business in Hendersonville?
I will.
I want to thank you. This board is very pro-business. I think you can see that in the decisions that we've made. However, this city is coming to close to an end of the available property for development. So we have to be very careful of how we move forward with the limited land that we have left. But I do want to thank you for your business. We support you 100%, and if we vote against you tonight, does not mean that we are against your business. So I want you to be sure and understand and appreciate that. Each of us has to search our own hearts to vote what we think is best for the long-term interest of this city. So with that, I also have some comments, Mayor, if I may. And everyone on this board knows that I love history, but when I go to Washington, D.C., I see the Smithsonian Institute. The Smithsonian Institute was originally, the idea of that was President John Quincy Adams. And some wanted to put the Smithsonian Institute out of the way of the Capitol, of the main part of Washington. But President John Quincy Adams said, no, it needs to be the center part of our capital and our nation. In other words, the arts, museum, history, a community needs that cultural emphasis, that cultural genesis in order, I think, to move forward as an enlightened community. As our community grows in population, it is important, I believe, for the cultural advancement that that arts appreciation and education continues to grow. We have, as it's been said, and let me ask all those in favor of using this property for Mott Haven instead of the car dealership, would you please stand? We appreciate you coming tonight and making your government or having your government listen to your voice, and we have heard it. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
We have we have a real treasure in Mott Haven, and I personally want to support its growth in word and deed. Several weeks ago, it was mentioned that Mott Haven had a had a exhibit of Vietnam art. I attended that reception fundraiser, and I was moved by the Huey helicopter that brought in the artist. And I saw a couple of Vietnam veterans say, once you hear a Huey, you never forget the sound. Woo, 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 you know, the rotor sound. Then at the reception, I sat at a table of people that I didn't know. Several of them were from Nashville. One was the curator of the State Museum. There was also a retired circuit judge from Etowah, Tennessee, McMinn County. And I enjoyed, so just right there at my table, there was a whole group of people that were loving Mott Haven and loving the exhibit that we had. So I really believe that it is a real opportunity for this city. We spend a lot of money on our parks, and that's good because we need recreation. But in my view, we also need the arts. So with that, Mayor, I think we have a real treasure in Mott Haven. I want to support its growth in word and deed, and therefore I cannot support tonight the add a use to the existing planned development for that property. Thank you.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Got some notes, and then I'll probably just have a couple remarks like Eddie did too. Do you have a contingency contract on the property?
Yes.
Okay.
Hold on. He said yes.
I'm sorry. I should ask you to come to the microphone. I've received a lot of emails, and I think everybody along this board has, and some of them I have answered. I made a couple phone calls and talked to people yesterday just to give my opinion on a couple things. Number one, and Barry was one of those, the president of the board, that I think what Mott Haven's doing is phenomenal. You know, I love the classes, I love the art stuff, I love the arts, you know, and I think you're doing a great job of what you're doing. Okay. I think Hyundai has done a really good job in this city of selling automobiles, and You know, you can talk about the west corridor if you want to. I think the Hyundai dealership on that corridor, frankly, looks pretty good. I mean, it's clean and it's neat, and I don't think you bring any crime in. You're trying to sell cars and make some money. And as you know, I'm a quasi Hyundai owner. My granddaughter drives one now that she bought from you all. So, and she likes it very well, by the way. So, but to me, we're talking about two separate things here. We're talking about expanding a car dealership. Is that the best use for that corner? On a business that has been there, how long have y'all been open down there? And just go to the mic and stay close to it. So,
The business has been there for 13 years.
13 years now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you've been there 13 years, and you're asking for an expansion, basically to sell about double plus the cars you've been selling now, which certainly will bring tax revenue in. You know, if you were a brand-new business, it would be harder to say no to you. But you're not a brand-new business. You've proven that you can do business. So, to me, we're talking about two different things. We've got a culture center, an arts and cultural center that's doing a really good job, that wants a piece of land that you have a contingency on. I know you all wanted that land since you started into that project, because I was in some of those meetings. Mr. Pitcher and I met in Mr. Gilly's office when he was still a school teacher about your future and what you were going to do and how you were going to raise money. I remember conversations about folks that were ready to write checks for $50,000 and $100,000, and I think there's been some of those written. I also remember, and I had a discussion a little bit about lease yesterday. I'm going back to car dealership, but it seems like it's all entwined here right now, so I'm just going to talk about it. We went through a lot of pain and agony, I'd say, on this board, and discussion 3 years ago, about leases and what the cultural center could do and do for the city. And I understand COVID's hit. We've all been affected with that, PPPs, and a lot of people in this room have. So, but I also have looked at the lease agreement. I had Mr. Bradley find it for me, and his phone is like a file cabinet. It has a lot of stuff in it, and you know, technically, your lease agreement is null and void because you haven't fulfilled what you said you were going to do, and it should have expired December 2019. Now, if you don't believe me, take the lease out and look at it. So that doesn't have, I'm just telling you that there's an issue there that needs to be taken care of. Because right now, the city is providing the building, providing the land, providing a lot of things for that facility. And I see y'all shaking your head, but that's been, I've conferred with council, so you can confer with council about it. But to me, it's two different things. I want you guys to be there and where you're at, and I would like to see you purchase all that land. But, you know, have you talked to the people that own the land? Obviously, Hyundai did.
Yes.
So was there agreements made? You know, I don't know any of that. I'm just making statements, really, not asking questions. But, so I think there's some issues that need to be cleaned up there. I know there's been a lot of conversation on this board with our legal team this week, Mr. Bradley. Here's the other thing I would like to say too, and this doesn't really have anything to do with either Hyundai or Mack. You guys came to general committee because Planning Commission did not vote you a yes or no. During that general committee meeting, I asked the planning director, I said, can you tell me why we didn't get a vote in planning? Planning director said, no, I can't. I received, you know, I get emails today from a planning committee. I'm probably going to make an enemy here. That's okay. I have some. I've been doing this a long time.
Can I address the lease issue? I'm a board member of the MAC, and I'm an attorney here in town. I'm just reading this lease for the first time.
Hold on one second.
I would prefer that you address that with Mr. Bradley once this is over.
We're gonna go forward here. If somebody wants to ask you a question about that, chances are somebody might. So we'll go on.
I expect you to ask. I don't want you to sit there and be quiet. I just don't want to get in a big deal here right now. My answer was, no, I don't know why. Like I said, I'm getting ready to make an enemy. I received an email today from a planning commissioner telling me that the planning commission voted no, and that they would like to see me support that and vote no also. The planning commission did not take a vote. They did not take a vote. All what I expect of my planning commission is a yes or a no, and if it's a no, why it's a no. So, and from what I understand, did you make a presentation to the planning commission? Did you do this PowerPoint? Did you do any presentation at the planning commission?
Hallmark guys, need you to come up here, please.
Somebody.
No, sir, we did not have this same presentation that you all have in front of you tonight at Planning Commission.
Okay. So you never made this presentation?
Not this particular presentation, no. They had presented the FDP documents that, all the checklist items that the city requires, not the presentation you have in front of you.
Just the written documents, okay. I don't understand why there was no vote. Okay, so I don't think your due diligence has been done at the planning commission level for you guys, personally. So with that being said, I'm going to move to defer you back to the planning commission. You make your presentation there, and to get a vote from the planning commissioners up or down. And if they vote you down, I want to know specifically why they vote you down.
I'll second that.
So a motion to defer, send us back to the planning commission, and then come back to us with an appropriate second. John, weigh in here, please. Obviously, this is something that we have to take up. Is this a reasonable, this is not an unreasonable delay, is it?
I wouldn't think so. I mean, you could ask the developer if they would agree to it, send it back.
Okay.
I think there was some conversation about, I heard bits and pieces that they felt like they weren't given an opportunity to even make a presentation to the planning commission. So with that, I think that would certainly make sense.
Okay. I do feel like it would help if it came from the board that we want the planning commission to consider this.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
I don't think I can answer your question either, why they did not have any discussion on it. I can answer any, I don't think anybody here. Hallmark guys, this somewhat depends on you and how you feel about this. We may go ahead and vote regardless of if you want us to send it back to planning commission, but we want your thoughts on this. What this means is that the earliest we would go to the planning commission would be the first Tuesday in August. What we would do is there's no reason for it to go back to committee, I assume. It could come back to us the second Tuesday of August.
and in my motion, I'll leave it up to you. We vote tonight, or you go back to planning commission to take the time to talk to them and make a presentation.
Well, we certainly want to be respectful to everyone that's sitting up here. If you are telling us that's your recommendation, we certainly don't want to go against that recommendation.
Okay. So we have a motion, a second to defer this, and it seems that you are not disagreeing, I guess is the best way to characterize your answer?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We do have some other people that wish to speak. We do need a dispense of this first. We can go ahead and vote on this, or you can withdraw it, and we can have other people speak. I don't really have a preference. There are some people who have not had the opportunity to speak on this so far. And I'll tell you who's in the queue right now, and that's Alderman Collins and Alderman Petrelli that haven't had the opportunity to speak. You have made a motion, and it has been duly seconded. We can go ahead with that. To defer.
What's my second feel like?
I want to speak to the motion.
Go ahead. Hold on, there we go, okay.
Okay, I have to concur. I spoke to Keith Free, our planning director today, also spoke to the person on the planning commission to express my huge disappointment in our planning commission, except for one person that made a motion not to even discuss this. I don't feel that they did their due diligence. I don't think that they discussed the issue at hand and debated it properly. And so I think that they did not do their job, period. And I truly think that this needs to go back to our planning commission to do their jobs, and then come back to us, and then we do our job. And that's the way it works. That's the way it normally works. I've never seen anything like this before in my life, in 10 years. So I concur with my colleague. Thank you.
Alderman Cunningham, thank you. Alderman Petrelli and Alderman Collins, do you wish to speak on this motion? Alderman Collins.
I was in line to speak earlier, and it turns out that I was largely in agreement with the things that Alderman Brown had to say. I do want to add to that a little bit. To the guys from Hyundai, I'm not a car person.
Yes.
No, I'm not. In fact, I had just bought a car, and my friend said, "What kind is it?" And I said, "It's a Honda," and it's not. It's a Nissan. I forgot which one I bought, and I bought it based on the cup holders, for real. But I do want, all kidding aside, I do want to apologize to you because all but one of our planning commissioners failed in their duty by not having a second and hearing your request. I consider our planning commissioners to be like subject matter experts for us. They review the materials. I watch the YouTube video. I hear what their findings of fact are. I listen to their discussions. I find it very insightful. It helps me vote when we're here. In addition to community input and my own thoughts on it. Those things didn't happen. Perhaps we don't express enough appreciation to the planning commissioners to let them know we understand how difficult their job is. I'm not sure why they failed in that way, but we do owe you an apology because as a city, we didn't do what we should have to hear your situation fully. I will definitely support sending it back to planning as long as that does not cause an undue delay on your part from your perspective. But I do want to say that at this time, I feel like I'm unlikely to support a change in the zoning because I think we got it right the first time for that land. I feel like a restaurant or some of the other things that are provided for in the current zoning are more appropriate. And I'm the liaison for the Arts Council, which is kind of the same thing-ish as Mont Haven. And we are working to fill out our council, which I need all of you all to help me with. And we're definitely going to be addressing issues like the discrepancies with the lease agreement and many other things and figure out exactly what the Arts Council's relationship with Mont Haven needs to be moving forward. So I am a friend to the MAC. But like a really good friend, I'm going to tell you when you have lipstick on your teeth. And
Alderman Collins, I hate to do this.
I'm going to be, oh, it's not to the motion.
Yeah.
I'll tell you about it in a minute.
Anybody else wish to speak on the motion to defer? Keith, I need your help on something. We are past the deadline for the planning commission in August. I'll come to you. Are there any problems with doing this?
Yeah, I was just trying to think because this is adding a use, and I believe, and I may have to refer to Timothy, but I believe we have, on adding a use, we do have a public hearing, and we provide notice to the adjacent property owners.
Have we provided a public hearing at the previous meeting?
We did, but I think it would be proper to have to require the proper notice again if we were going to, because that hearing was closed. Let me, hold on just one second. Yeah, Tim, he'll look that up, but that's my only concern
But
about.
there's no reason we don't have enough time to do that and get it advertised, is there?
Well, it's not, I don't think it's an advertisement in the paper, it's just sending it to the, we gotta do notice to neighbors and the paper, or just the? Not the paper. So we need 15 days to do that. If we got it out tomorrow, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna look at the calendar here.
Keith,
Yeah.
Keith, I'm going to disagree with you. I don't think we have to have another public hearing. I don't think we have to advertise for a public hearing. I think the planning commission could allow people who show up and wish to speak, that they could suspend their rules and allow that. But we have advertised a public hearing, and everybody had the opportunity to do that. Do you feel comfortable with?
I can get 15 day, we can get a 15-day notice, so we can get it out tomorrow.
Okay.
And then we'll be able to meet it.
You're
Yeah,
sure
it's
about
cool.
that? And you can get the letters out.
Oh, yeah, we can get all we gotta do is mail the letters, 15 days prior to, so.
Hold
yeah,
on one second. That's probably the safer thing to do.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
do that, because I think we need to provide that for people that adjacent,
Okay.
that may not be aware of what all's going on, with this. So I think that'd be the proper way to do it.
And y'all can get that done tomorrow,
Yeah, we can. get that.
if this motion passes.
Yes, we can get it done. We can get
Okay.
the notice done.
Okay.
And I can get it, we can go ahead and get it on the August Planning Commission meeting.
Okay.
Yeah,
Can you
we'll do
hold
that.
on one second? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Alderman Petrelli.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just going to go ahead and speak to the deferral now,
Okay.
so that we can kind of like wrap it all up.
Okay.
So I want to reiterate what Alderman Brown and Alderman Cunningham said about the Planning Commission. I served as a planning commissioner for 2 years as the liaison to this board, the position that Lee is in now. And it's a unique position because you, in addition to being a liaison, you also have voting rights. And at the Planning Commission, just like up here, there are times when you have to make difficult decisions. And not affording even the opportunity of a conversation like we've had tonight really reduces potential opportunities. And what I mean by that is Alderman Hayes said, he'd like to see a little bit more collaboration. I forget your exact words. And my background is in architectural construction. I was a Bachelor of Architecture. Anyway, when I look at sites, I sit here and I count numbers and I'm looking at different ways to collaborate, make it better, whatever. You guys are looking for semi-contiguous property. I mean, you don't exactly have that here. I'm looking at sight lines. I realize that Monhaven wants to put a building out front, but I'm like, oh gosh, you've got this curve here, which kind of cuts this property in half, right? So it kind of becomes a win-win. And I'm not suggesting this, I'm just saying if you all collaborated, you could still possibly wind up with, if I counted the numbers correctly, what is the total number of parking spaces that you're asking for in this configuration? 290? Okay. So what I counted up was 110. I don't know. It's between you all. You all are neighbors. But it seems to me like there are all types of opportunities here for collaboration to make this potentially work for both of you somehow. If everybody gives the whole community benefits. And then my third point is that should this pass, I think it's a very valid point. We have a lot of noise pollution in town, but I don't know how car dealerships work now, but to me, in my mind, in today's day and age, there's no reason to have overhead speakers saying, Mr. Smith, come to the blah, 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 blah. So I just, at some point, would want to put a contingency that there be no noise pollution, that there's no overhead speakers, because it would be kind of disruptive to the environment over there, especially if there was a sculpture garden or some type of outdoor toy. But I would like to see this go back to the Planning Commission, and I'd like to see the difficult decisions had there, because that's how we make our community better. Silence does not generate much of anything unless you're biting your tongue in an effort of peace. But we need to have these conversations, because look at how much we've discussed tonight. Creating a potential opportunity or partnership or something, and both of you all would benefit. Nothing in this life is perfect. So I appreciate your time. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Petrelli. Alderman Waters, do you wish to speak on the motion to defer? Go ahead.
If I understand this right, if this is voted to go back to planning, does it have to come back here before us to do it all over again?
Planning cannot approve, well, hold on, Keith. Yeah, Keith. Planning could have approved this in the first place, am I correct?
Yeah.
What?
Hold on, that's a very good question.
Yeah.
Go
That's
ahead,
what
Keith.
Timothy and I were just talking about, is now that it's going back there, let me kind of explain. This has got two things going on. It's a final development plan, okay? So this is something that's had a preliminary development plan, but it's never had a final. So the final development plan has to come forward to BOMA. But the ad use, if they approve it or deny it, it stops at the Planning Commission. And the only thing that the developer could do is then, like they're doing tonight, is appeal that decision to BOMA. So if they approve it, then the final development plan will still come to you all with the use set. The car deal, if they approve the adding of the new car dealership, so then you won't have a choice about that. You would just have confirmation that, to approve the final development plan. If they deny it, then most likely if they deny it, they're going to probably deny the final development plan as well. Then the option for the developer is to do what they've already done, which is why they're here tonight, is to appeal the decision of the Planning Commission.
Keith, they would not have been here had they gotten permission from the Planning Commission, is that correct?
Not about this
Right,
whole adding
right,
use,
right.
you just would have had a final development plan. It's like, oh, okay, that's in, compliance with the preliminary development plan, and it just would have been a simple thing. It could have been on a consent agenda at some point in time. But it's this adding the use, and it's the issue with the appeal from the Planning Commission's decision.
Keith, did the plaintiff come back to planning when they discovered this? And approach planning and find out what happened?
Planning Commission didn't necessarily do anything wrong.
No,
I'm not saying that, Mayor. I'm not saying they did. I'm just asking the question. Did they come back to planning when the planning came up with a no vote?
Yes, they came back to planning staff, and then staff let them know, your only way to move forward, if you wish, would be to appeal to BOMA.
That's
And
what
then
they're doing now?
And that's what they're doing now, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why does it have to go back to you and then come back to us again?
Because 7 people might vote that way.
Pardon?
Because we might ask for that.
Yeah.
Who?
We might ask for that. That's what the motion is on the floor. It isn't typical, however, if we ask them to do that, we're expecting them to do that.
And I'd say chances are, it going back, I mean, just chances are, I don't have reasons why there wasn't a second, and they didn't, a motion was made and there was no second, so therefore it failed for lack of a second. But if that occurred, I don't know anything significant has really changed in regards to what the Planning Commission was looking at before. So there's no significant change of what the Planning Commission already looked at. I don't know that there would be any other result, and it's very possible this is going to end up back in this same situation, maybe with just a more clear motion to approve and maybe a second just for discussion, and it gets denied, or nobody seconds the positive motion, and then somebody asserts a negative motion. I make a motion to deny and for some reasons, and then there's a second, and then there's a vote to deny.
Which is, I think, what our motion to defer is seeking, is some action from the Planning Commission.
Yeah. And I think they took, technically, they took action. It failed, but there wasn't the clarity of a vote to explain why that occurred.
Okay,
Yeah.
hold on one second. Alderman Waters, anything else? Very good question, though.
Yeah, that's good.
So what are you going to do when it comes back to you? They're going to go through it again, and you're going to vote this time.
Well, that's up to That's up to the chair and the planning commission on how they handle the vote, on, whether it's a duplication of what already occurred, or they go ahead and assert a negative vote. I mean, it's going to be at the discretion of the chair and the commission.
I'll go out on a limb and say, I feel like the planning commission will at least second the motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I only have one comment.
It's way out on a limb.
I only have one comment. Make this vote on the screen, not a yes.
We'll do that.
Okay?
We'll do that. Okay. Alderman Robertson, on the motion to defer.
Yes, Keith, I have a question. Well, I guess I've got a question for Mr. Bradley, and then I've got a question for Keith. Mr. Bradley, under parliamentary procedure, a motion that fails to get a second fails. Is that correct? Yep. A motion that is made and fails to receive a second is deemed that it fails. Is that correct?
It's my understanding that it would have failed because it didn't pass.
Yeah.
So it's two choices.
Yeah. So, Keith, was someone there from Hallmark at the Planning Commission meeting?
Yes.
Were they prepared to do a presentation, or were they there to answer questions?
I think they had presented the documents just like you see before you tonight. And then also they had representatives there to answer any questions. I think they may have shared some, I can't recall, but I believe that there was maybe something shared. Most likely it was, if it was, do you have any questions? And I don't know that there were any, particular questions. And then it just went to the motion before the active discussion. So just like it happens here, the discussion at the Planning Commission doesn't typically happen a lot of times before the motion. There's a motion, a second, then there's discussion on it. But it never got that far, because there wasn't a second, yeah.
Mr. Bradley, because there was no motion, no second, is the whole process procedurally flawed?
Not necessarily. I mean, it's up to this board to decide what to do with this. And if this board wants to request the planning commission to take
Sure.
action, either positive or negative, action, not failure to act, a motion to deny or a motion to approve and have a vote on it, I think it's within the rights of this board, the governing body, to ask for that. And that's what the motion is, as I understand it.
So, Mr. Dodson, a question for you. I think you got a flavor of the position of the Planning Commission as a result of no second to move forward on this. Would you prefer, and really it's our decision, but I want to give you an opportunity to comment, would you prefer that this go back through the process of the Planning Commission, or would you rather, the buck stops here, or would you rather us decide this matter tonight?
You're right. That
Yeah.
meeting we had the other night, and we were prepared, by the way. I don't know if that answer was clear. We did have this packet. The only thing that was different in this packet is the additional schematics of the shrubbery around the deal. But the rest of that packet was at that meeting, and I sat right next to here. And, you get to these things, and I always want to be very respectful in these situations. I didn't feel that it was proper just to stand up and start shouting at these folks, but we weren't given that platform at all, and we were prepared. And I was personally there, as well as David there. So if I could just check with my team here.
Sure. Because this is going to be resources for you to have to continue on this process. So,
They do have this slight possibility, the Planning Commission, help me here, Keith, the Planning Commission may vote to approve. In that case, it doesn't come back here.
that's what that's what.
Not the ad use.
I want to be able
Not
to
the ad
vote on
use,
it.
sorry.
Yeah. Pardon me? What was that?
The additional use would not come back here.
Yes.
The final development plan would come back.
That's why I'm afraid of. I'd rather just pull up my britches and make a decision tonight, That would be my preference, but I want to hear what the party has to say about this, because I want to take their position, and because I believe tonight they have had the ample opportunity to give a complete and full presentation. They've had complete freedom to say and to, present their case. So
Let me say this real quick. I was on the Memphis Planning Commission for 18 years, so I feel your pain. We want to work with this city and be a good corporate citizen. If it means sending it back to the Planning Commission, we are more than willing to do that. We'll get an extension on our contract. The part I don't understand is nobody was here from Mount Haven back a month ago when we were here. And we would have tried to work with them at that point in time, because I've always said, when I was on the Planning Commission for Memphis, let's work together. You want to send it back and we'll work with the Planning Commission.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Robertson, anything else?
no, sir, that's all.
Alderman Peterson on the motion to defer?
I would like to make a comment for the Planning Commission. Is that allowed right now?
I think it's probably appropriate now.
I'm on the Planning Commission. The Planning Committee works very diligently at every meeting. In fact, we had just denied rezoning for 216 Saunders Ferry Road at that meeting. When this ordinance came up, it looked like they just wanted to put a car lot on Main Street. We really didn't have very much guidance on that vote. And I think the only question asked was, are you going to plant trees? And Monhaven was never even brought up. If we had known that, maybe we would have voted. But it was very vague, and I don't know why there wasn't a second. But it just was, we felt like we didn't want to see another car lot driving into town. And I think that's why there was no second. And I just wanted to comment on the Planning Commission, which is probably the best committee in the city. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Peterson, thank you. Alderman Collins, I cut you off a few minutes ago. Did you want to continue on the motion to defer?
Well, it's not technically about that, but I wanted to make sure I have an opportunity to speak, and if that fails, if that passes, I would.
You would not have an opportunity to
Okay.
speak.
So what I want to say to Monthaven is that should this fail, I don't know what's going to happen here, honestly, but if it does fail, this is your moment to create urgency with your donors, because this might not have even come to us, and there are plenty of uses in the current zoning. This land is going to be developed, and it's probably going to be developed pretty soon. So, I mean, there's not a deadline, but just as, if you want to buy this land, you need to do it very, very soon. And you know that a big component in fundraising is how do you create urgency? You have it. And I know you'll make the most of it. Because we cannot hold this land on reserve for you. That is not what is happening here. That would not be appropriate. I don't even think it would be legal. But we do appreciate your communicating with us. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Alderman Collins, thank you. Alderman Petrelli.
Thank you, Mayor. I respect Alderman Brown's amendment to send it back to planning, but I'm not going to be able to support that tonight. I think they spoke loud and clear with their actions. And with that said, I'd like to call to question.
We have a motion, a second to call the question. We have nobody in the queue. Do you want to withdraw your motion? Or should we take a vote on calling the question? There you go.
Thank you. I'll withdraw. Thanks.
Thank you. Withdraw from the second, Alderman Robertson. Thank you. So we have a motion and a proper second to, and actually the terminology is to refer this to the Planning Commission and ask them to give us some direction at the first meeting, at their meeting in August, and then to come back to us at our meeting in August. Did I define that motion well, Alderman Brown? Alderman Cunningham? Okay. And we're going to take a vote up on the screen here. So all those in favor, Jason, can you get the lights blinking for us? All those in favor of this motion, go ahead, Alderman Robertson.
We have a voice, Mayor. Is it appropriate to have a voice vote?
What I can do is let's vote electronically, and then I'll read out
Thank you.
afterward I'll read out. So, okay, I appreciate that. So all those in favor of the motion to refer back to the planning commission for their meeting in August, to come back to us, seeking direction from them, to come back to us for our meeting in August. All those in favor of that motion, you're going to hit the green light. All those opposed, hit the red light, please. And now's the time to do that. Okay, so we have everybody vote. We have everybody who has voted. So voting opposed is Alderman Petrelli, Alderman Skidmore, Alderman Peterson, Alderman Edwards, Alderman Collins, Alderman Waters, and Alderman Robertson. That's 7. Voting in favor, Alderman Hayes, Alderman Dixon, Alderman Brown, myself, Alderman Cunningham, and Alderman Campbell. So that fails 7-6. We are back on the main motion here. Jason, can you wipe that out, please? Thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak on the motion that's in front of us? And this is Resolution 2021-33. I do need to have Keith speak a little bit. Keith, can you explain what our options are to us here? If this prevails, we're done.
Right.
And we move on to the next agenda item. If it doesn't, is this done and we move on to the next agenda item?
It's done and you move on to the next agenda item. There isn't any. So then if you deny it, then it's denying the appeal of the planning commission's decision.
Okay.
It's denying the final development plan and the ad use package.
Okay.
If you approve it, then that's done. Then they could move forward with their site plan. They already submitted, actually, at their risk. They submitted a site plan for the August meeting for that site. But that's really it. If it's not going back to the planning commission, those are really the two choices. It's either approve it or deny it. Keep in mind, this isn't necessarily a rezoning, so there's not the super specific findings of fact. It would be good to have some reason, on this for denial or approval. Either way, it would be good to have that, but it's not necessarily required to have findings of fact.
Okay. Do we need findings of fact in this situation?
No.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna, yeah, come on up over here, please. We still has the rule suspended. Typically, we would want to just ask you questions at this point, but where we are, feel free to speak.
Okay, so thank you very much for allowing us that. So I just talked to Mr. Dotson, and if Mont Haven wants to buy half of this property, if y'all approve the Carlet location, you've got our word, and we'll sell them up to half of the property for them to build their school, site, whatever they want to do, and make this a win-win situation for everyone.
How do we do that right now?
I mean, that's as good as I know how to do.
So Alderman Peterson, what I think is probably the best thing is, since you are the sponsor of this, bless your heart, you could choose to withdraw this at this time. The earliest we could bring it up would be the beginning of August, or we could just allow the planning commission to deal with it, and y'all would still have the opportunity to appeal to us if the planning commission denies it.
I'm not following you. What now?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay, so what I'm suggesting we do, and Keith has a very troubled look on his face, though.
I'm just trying to follow.
Okay, so what I'm suggesting we do is that Alderman Peterson withdraws this. We would be done with it tonight. Okay, if he withdraws it, we would be done with it tonight. That will give you all the opportunity to work with Mont Haven and then go back to the planning commission at the first meeting in August with the possibility that they would approve it. If they deny it when they meet in August, you could still come back here and appeal that decision. That would give you 3 weeks to work with the folks at Mont Haven to come up with something.
We're open for negotiation, Mr. Mayor. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say, is we're willing to say, look, we'll reduce the size of our footprint in order to let them build their school on, I guess that's on the eastern portion of the site.
Okay. I think we need to give you time to work that out with them.
I mean, I would make anything that y'all did contingent upon us coming to an agreement with them. But I mean, I think that's a fair resolution.
Yeah, I think so too.
So we withdraw it.
have been so simple if they just voted to send it back to planning commission.
Hold on one second.
And we might want to you might just want to ask if they might consider sending it back to planning with that understanding. That's what the planning commission is going to hear.
Hold on, you say this out loud. Hold on one second. Can everybody listen to this, please? John, go ahead.
If someone from the prevailing side on that motion to refer it to the planning commission, like Mr. Edwards, would agree to ask for another vote on that motion to refer to the planning commission with the understanding that this is what's going to be presented to the planning commission, this compromise, this proposal that they have made, so the planning commission can hear that, which it didn't before, and that something can be worked out with Monhaven for that portion of the property that they need in front of their building.
Okay, hold on one second. Keith, is it? Okay. Are we running into any trouble with that?
No, exactly what John said, but this particular use that Monhaven wants on that property, that's not an allowable use. That's not a allowable use in the planned development, but it can be. But when.
No different than ours.
Yeah, that's right. Same thing, adding a use. But it may be good if you have that motion and doing everything that John was saying, also encourage the consideration of adding a use
Yes.
that would allow Monhaven to do what it plans on
So
doing.
now we're talking about a motion that is not the same as the motion to refer a second ago. So we could have a wholly new motion saying exactly what Keith just said. And that would be a motion to refer to the planning commission, asking the planning commission to give us some direction on this, but also to consider the additional use of what Monhaven would like to put there.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay?
That'll do it.
And then, that should be the end of the motion.
That's it.
So I'm going to entertain a motion that we refer this to the planning commission, instructing the planning commission to give us some direction, but also to consider what Monhaven's desire is for the property. It doesn't, because we're going to disregard
New motion.
that. We're going
New
to
motion.
control a new motion since it's different. So I have several lights lit up. So I'm sorry, Alderman Brown makes that motion. Alderman Cunningham makes the second. Yes, okay, so this is a new motion, this is to refer to the planning commission. Okay, Alderman Petrelli seconded, thank you. Alderman Brown, Alderman Petrelli, refer to the planning commission, asking them to take action and to consider the additional uses of a new car dealership, is that the correct, and what Monhaven has in mind?
Yes.
Okay. Alderman Peterson, I'm going to go to you first. Some other people are coming up. Alderman Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. Is Monhaven in agreement with this proposal?
It gives them time.
Okay, the proposal is we're going to do 3 weeks, right?
We're going to give you 3 weeks to come up with something. And if you don't, that's okay. We're going to be back
In
here
other words,
again.
then they have to go to the planning commission again and give the full presentation.
That's up to them. But likely
No,
that will
I'm just
happen.
saying,
What we would like to do is meet with you
Right.
next week, look at the property, we'll divide the property right in the middle.
and you donate the land to us?
No, ma'am.
Then you wouldn't even have, but then you wouldn't have to find a charity to give anything to for week. Then for years, you wouldn't have to give anything to any charity. You would have given it in one lump sum.
I'm really trying to be.
I know.
But you're
And
not
I'm-
being fair.
Oh, no, I'm teasing.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
no.
I'm not teasing.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is.
I mean, it's a good idea, but
Cheryl,
I
hold on
am
one second.
teasing.
We can't hear either one of you. We can't hear either one of you,
Oh,
okay?
I'm sorry.
So what I'm saying is, we'll meet with you and say, look, here's the property, we're gonna divide it in half. Get the approval, you get your approval, we get our approval, and you'll have half the property, and we'll have half the property, and we'll be good neighbors.
But we don't have to discuss that right now. We can
Yeah,
give
and
you
we would
3
have to
weeks.
look and, yeah,
can give
and
you
we
3
can look, like we said, we can talk about it and see what possibly could happen. We're open, if that's what you guys are saying you're gonna do, that you're gonna wait the 3 weeks and send it back to the planning, if that's what you're saying. If I say I don't agree with that, in other words, what does that mean?
That means that they have the opportunity to still go to the planning commission.
Okay,
get
that's
approval.
all I wanted to know. So in other words, either way.
Yep.
Okay, we're open to all conversation, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Peterson.
Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Petrelli.
Thank you, Mayor. And this goes back to my point earlier of when we have discussions, good things can possibly happen. First of all, I would like to thank you all for making that offer, that potential offer and opportunity right here on the spot. That's a big decision. And I really appreciate you listening to our comments up here. I can see that you all want to continue being good neighbors in Hendersonville and business owners. And as Alderman Collins eloquently stated earlier, you guys really got to pull it together and figure out what you want to do quickly with your plan, meaning, you know, this is what we want to do, this is how we want to do it, but this is a great opportunity. It's probably one of the best opportunities I've ever seen on this, come through this BOMA, of a nonprofit, and I don't want to say partnership because I know it's not, but it's a great opportunity. And I strongly encourage you all to keep an open mind to make this happen. I think most of you all know I'm one of the most conservative members up here when it comes to land developers. The developers don't even call me anymore because it's pointless. So to see something nice go on this space in front of Monthaven, and for you all to continue, you know, getting what your needs are for your business, but also keeping it, matching our planning and keeping it greened. I don't think anybody wants to see a front-facing parking lot on Gallatin Road, as, you know, opposed to Mr. Waters. But making this something that works. Please try hard. Thank you, and thank you all very much.
Alderman Petrelli, thank you. Alderman Robertson.
Mayor, I would support, excuse me, I would support this motion with one small change. I would prefer, since this is such a huge decision, that the final report of the parties come back to this board and present it to this board. I respect and appreciate the Planning Commission, but I don't want to pass the buck. I want to make a vote on this. This is too important. This is too important to the future of our city to allow a non-elected board to make this decision. So if you will make the change that this will be back on BOMA's agenda at the next meeting, which would be the first meeting in August, I can support, but I cannot support bumping this back to the Planning Commission and letting them make such an important milestone decision.
So hold on, Alderman Robertson, I appreciate that. Are we violating our zoning code, Keith, by requiring that?
What are we requiring? I think,
I want this board to make the final decision. So
Yes.
put this back on the agenda, and we'll receive a report from Monthaven and from the car dealership, and then we can vote. So I guess we would just be postponing this vote.
It will come back with a final development plan, however.
yeah. So you could, that is a path you could do what Alderman Robertson is saying. You could go that way. The only thing you won't get that would have to go back through would be adding the arts use, you know, but it could go back later. I mean, so you could bring it back to here. It doesn't go back to the Planning Commission.
Yeah.
You guys just defer it, hear it at your next meeting. Maybe they come back with a deal, and then they present that to you all and say you like it. And then it might have part of that property that the half they're talking about for Monthaven, you know, would just kind of be the area they're going to develop. And then they would have to go back through and they do a final development plan and have to add that use and go back through the same process that they're having to go through to add that use. So you could go that way. I mean, that could be done. At the end of it, though, when you get done with it here in a month from now, then you're going to have all that squared away, but the add use is not going to be actually official until it goes back through.
Let me ask Alderman Robertson a
Yeah.
question. Alderman Robertson, are you concerned that if this gets approved, that it should come back to the board? It should still come back to this board?
I want to have a final say on this.
Okay.
And it's my understanding that if the Planning Commission approves it, we won't have another egg to fry in it. We'll be done.
I think, and Alderman Peterson can maybe address it, being the liaison to the Planning Commission. I think given the guidance from this meeting, if that does go back to the Planning Commission, I think they'll fully look at this differently because it's totally different. It's a totally different submission, and it may still end up there, but But then, and it would be, the deal would be done at the planning commission, on whether if the planning commission approved it with whatever the new revised thing would be. And you're correct, it wouldn't come back here if they approved
It
it.
wouldn't come back here because it's a minor change?
No, it's because, it's just adding the use.
Gotcha. Just
If they get the use added, and that's really what we're talking about, we're really not talking about the
Let me-
final development
Let me
plan.
try
That's
this.
not an
Let me try
issue.
this. Alderman Robertson, are you satisfied with the fact that the final development plan comes back to, okay?
No, because that's perfunctory.
I understand.
That's true, that's
Okay.
true.
So what Alderman Robertson is asking is that the makers of the motion require that it come back to us regardless of what the planning commission's decision is. Is that,
What I would like to do is defer this decision until the next meeting and let the parties come back and tell us if they have an agreement, and then us vote at that
so
time.
not even go to the planning commission?
No, not go to planning commission.
Wait, hold on. You made the motion? You made the motion? So,
We can't approve the art council use. That hasn't been.
so here's our problem, Alderman Robertson, is us as a group, we cannot approve the Arts Council use. The planning commission has to do that.
Understood,
Okay, so
understood.
So maybe the motion needs to be that the planning commission takes action on the Arts Council use. Do we have time to do that?
Mayor,
Yeah.
I think that part of the equation is premature. I think we can come back when Mont Haven has raised the money and they're ready to purchase the land, then we can change the use at that time. So I don't think that it's ripe for decision on that aspect of it.
Okay, so what you would like to see as a motion, and this may fail, what you would like to see as a motion is that we give the Arts Council and we give Hallmark a month to get together. We come back here, it doesn't go back to planning commission, we come back here and and hopefully see both of them.
That's
and we make
correct.
a decision.
In other words, this motion would be deferred until the next meeting.
That's all we would be doing.
That's all.
It's resolutions.
We're not asking to go to planning commission.
No.
You want to change your motion?
That work, yeah.
Okay, so Alderman Brown is going to withdraw his earlier motion. I assume Alderman Petrelli is going to withdraw her second. Alderman Brown is going to make a motion to what you have just stated, and that is that we are deferring this for 1 month. Excuse me, we are deferring this until the first meeting, to our only meeting in August, giving both parties the opportunity to have some discussion.
And I'll second that motion.
I think you're too late. I think it's Alderman.
Oh, okay, okay. All right.
I appreciate the suggestion.
Back to us.
Okay, so if we could, let's speak on this motion, and that's to defer for a month. I have right now Alderman Cunningham. Do you want to speak on the motion to defer for a month? Alderman Cunningham, go ahead, please.
Okay, first I want to thank Mr. Andrews, Mr. Dotson for their offer. Compromise is always good. It's always win-win, not win-lose, not lose-lose, win-win. And I think that this might be a really good win-win situation here for our city. In reference to the motion, I think it needs to come back to us because we put our big boy pants on, our big girl pants on here and did our job. And in a month from now, you guys could get together, figure it all out, do the nitty-gritty, and then we can come to hopefully an amicable decision for all parties involved. And I want to thank you again for our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Cunningham. Alderman Petrelli.
Yeah, when you all come back and have a viable plan in place, I will support both zoning changes so that when it goes back to planning, I'm just stating that publicly so everybody knows that, but I'll support both uses at that point. Thank you guys again very much.
Alderman Petrelli, thank you. Alderman Brown.
Thanks, Mayor. Briefly, we came around the world tonight, it seems like, but I think in a good way, actually. We're talking about compromise, doing some things. You're willing to give some, you're willing to take some over there, do some pushing and shoving. I know Keith and Timothy over there are probably not going to be happy with me, first of all, and then maybe some other people that spoke up here, but that's okay. If we can do something good for the city, and you guys can come together and do something good, and you already are on both facets. it's even going to be that much more phenomenal. But again, I appreciate your willingness of both of you, especially you, to give, and you guys to work with them, Barry and Cheryl, to try to make something happen. So it'll be a long meeting on August 10th. I already know that. But in some ways, I'm really kind of looking forward to it, see what y'all come up with. So, thanks.
Alderman Brown, thank you. I haven't spoken on this yet, so a couple things I want to say is, as a planning commissioner for 6 years, I rarely seconded something that I didn't want to go forward. So let's keep that in mind, that you had a lot of people there that I think their way to show that there's a disagreement with this was to take no action, and they chose not to make a second. Also, I hope that we will vote to approve this suggestion right here and to give them time and have them come back in a month. Jason, can you get the lights ready for us, please? So we have a motion to defer this until our meeting in August. All those in favor, please hit your green button. All those opposed, hit the red one. That passes 13-0. Motion to take a break. Alderman Cunningham.
Can we take a 5-minute break?
I'm sorry?
I would like to make a motion to take a 5-minute break.
Alderman Edwards, a second.
I will second that.
So we're going to take a 5-minute break.
I'm Barry Ellis, Chairman of the Board. Hey, thank you for being willing to work with us.
In January this year, I did ayahuasca with a shaman from Colombia. Now, for those of you who have never heard of this, ayahuasca is a form of plant medicine. It opens up your mind to new levels of connection, and it gets you into what is called an altered state. Now, altered states are fascinating to me. These are different levels of mind that let you tap into human abilities that we in the modern world tend to ignore. Stephen Kotler once said, "We live in a monophasic society, but indigenous cultures live in polyphasic societies." What this means is that in our world, we learn to function in one level of mind, the beta or waking frequency. But the mind is far more complex than that. There are other frequencies you can tap into: alpha for relaxation, theta for tapping into intuition, psychic potential, and healing, and delta, where the really crazy stuff starts happening. Now, the thing is, in our modern world, we try to solve everything at the waking level. But in indigenous cultures, they use altered states for really powerful abilities. I spent some time with this tribe, the ayahuasca tribe in the Amazon rainforest. This is one of many dream cultures around the world, where people communicate with each other through dreams. They also use ayahuasca to access other levels of mind for insight, for healing, for communication with a higher power. But the good news is, even in our modern society, we are starting to wake up. In Stephen Kotler's book, Stealing Fire, he said that the altered state industry is now $1 trillion. Everyone from CEOs to Marines to athletes are using altered state tools to access states to expand their awareness. Now, in this book by Daniel Goleman, it's called Altered Traits. Goleman talks about the 4 main ways to access these altered states, right? There is neurotraining, and I'm a big fan of that. There is plant medicine, there's breathwork, and there's meditation. And Goleman says this: the most important is meditation. So yes, you can do ayahuasca, and I do that. You can do neurotraining, and I do that. But these require a lot of time, travel. Neurotraining can be highly expensive. I spend about $15,000 for a 5-day experience. But there's one that gives me breakthroughs like nothing else, and that's meditation. Most people ignore it because most people do meditation in only one tiny way in which it should be done, and that is where they focus on their breath and they clear their mind. That is passive meditation. But there's a form of meditation called active meditation, and when you do this, you get to go and play with all of these altered states. Now, the most powerful and defined form of active meditation I've found, and I've been studying it for 2 decades now, comes from Jose Silva. He's a mind science researcher who studied and created something called the Silva method in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I've been studying the Silva method for 20 years, and it's one of the most powerful ways to access the alpha level of mind for healing, for relaxation, for creative visualization, but then going into theta in really well-constructed ways to tap into psychic potential, to source inspiration ideas, and then go further to delta. And in delta, you communicate with higher intelligence and you shift reality. You see coincidences. You see, it's hard to explain, but things just get easier. It's like you are blessed by luck. Now, of all the programs I've studied, the Silva system has been the most defined methodology for accessing and using altered states. And after 20 years of working with the system, working with Jose Silva's family, because he passed away in 1999, Mind Valley is bringing the Silva method back to the world in a big way. I'm honored to have been asked to be the new face of the Silva method because of my research in this, and we'll be bringing this to Mind Valley. And I want to invite you to join me on a 90-minute free masterclass where I'm going to be teaching how to access altered states. In this class, you're going to learn about the different states, how to use these states, and I'm going to show you a technique that you can train yourself so that very reliably you can access a particular altered state. And I'm going to give you a tool designed by Jose Silva that allows you to use the state in a really powerful way to do anything from manifesting your dreams to self-healing. And this masterclass is part of the new Silva Ultramind system, the methodology that Jose Silva developed just before he died and that Mind Valley is now updating and bringing to the world. Thank you. I'll see you there.
Want to know how to get rid of your toe fungus for good? Then you must see this. Top medical doctor shows a 53-year-old woman who suffered from toenail fungus for over 12 years his all-natural way to regrow healthy nails and reclaim pink, healthy toes in record time. An American Nobel Prize-winning doctor, Farid Murad, has discovered a natural way to reclaim the healthy pink toenail you were born with in record time. Did you know toenail fungus problems have absolutely nothing to do with your toes? A shocking link between toenail fungus and white blood cells was discovered by researchers at the Diseases and Infection Department of Harvard Medical School, along with scientists at Duke University and the Department of Medicine at the University of Queensland. These studies show that toenail fungus doesn't just attack the surface area of the foot. Instead, research reveals toe fungus is actually an internal infection caused by a compromised immune system. And if you've been struggling with toenail fungus for over 2 weeks, chances are there's a massive bacterial buildup in your body's organs and cells. That's why no amount of external scrubbing or topical treatments have worked for you. The truth is, you have to force out the fungus from the inside. And this Nobel Prize-winning discovery helped solve the real reason why you can't get rid of toe fungus, and created a simple trick to reverse this fungus problem, no matter if you've had toenail fungus for 7 days or 7 years. And it works like crazy. This one simple trick is so amazing. It sent the entire foot care industry back to the drawing board, and it's currently losing them millions of dollars. Over 37,000 people are already doing it and seeing brand new pink toenails in record time. It's so powerful because it targets the one internal root cause of foot fungus. So stop everything you're doing and click the link below to watch a short, free special video that this fungal specialist just created. Remember, this has nothing to do with meds, surgery, or expensive topical treatments, and it works for all major types of foot fungus problems: yellow-brown discoloration, crumbling, fungal spread, rotting appearance, foul smell, and even toenail loss. You name it. Jim is a man who went to see a podiatrist 7 months ago. He had severe toenail fungal damage and was prescribed nail removal surgery. But soon after he discovered and started doing this simple habit, he couldn't believe his results. After a month, he went back to see the podiatrist, who was shocked to see that Jim was cleared and no longer needed nail removal surgery at all. Angie had been suffering from embarrassing foot fungus for over 6 years. She wore 2 pairs of socks everywhere she went because she was so self-conscious of the smell. Her fungal sores were so painful that they affected her balance when walking. She tried every known foot soak remedy, but it was all just a waste of money. However, 3 weeks after doing this 7-second habit daily, her nails looked fresh and pink, and she found no signs of toe fungus. Look at her now, no more hiding. So click the link below and watch this short, free foot clearing demonstration video now before it's gone for good. If it worked for Jim and Angie, who've had toenail fungus for over 13 years combined, imagine what it can do for you.
Y'all, we're starting. We're good. Okay, we are back. Appreciate the 5-minute break. Next, we have on our agenda, this is item B under ordinances and resolutions. This is second and final reading of ordinance 2021-23. This is an ordinance establishing a special committee to study and propose a plan for the naming of city structures and facilities. Alderman Robertson, I need you to make a motion, please, and then I'll come back to you.
Yes, I move to amend ordinance 2021-23, section 4.
Let's just make a motion to get it on the floor first, and then I'll come right back to you for the amendment.
All right, I make a motion.
Okay? Second. And a second from Alderman Waters. Alderman Robertson.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to amend this ordinance, section 4, D and E, and I have passed out language so that you can see it and not just have to follow my broken English in my discussion of this. The proposed new language for section 4D would read, Ms. Vanessa Silkwood is appointed to serve as a representative of the Hendersonville Municipal Planning Commission. The proposed new language for section 4E would read, Mr. Jeremiah Bennett is appointed to serve as a representative of the Hendersonville Parks Board. I am recommending this amendment for three basic reasons. First, my amendment, I believe, will speed up the important work of this naming commission by actually naming members of the Planning Commission and the Parks Board that will serve on the commission. Otherwise, it may be almost a month before the Planning Commission and the Parks Board will meet to appoint a representative, which will slow down the process. Now, I understand the Parks Board typically meets the last week of each month. So by us acting on this tonight, it will speed up the formation of this committee so they can get to work on making a recommendation. The second reason, I am hoping that my amendment will help forge more of a consensus on BOMA for the naming commission. And third, finally, it gives BOMA a more direct voice on who serves on this important commission. I urge my colleagues tonight to approve this amendment for the second reading of this ordinance. And thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Robertson has a motion, and I will second that. Any discussion on this item? I think you handed out this to everybody. Appreciate you doing that ahead of time so everybody could see see it in written form as opposed to your broken English, I think is the way you put it. We have nobody wishing to speak on this amendment. Are we ready to vote? Jason, can you bring us up, please? So we've got is amendment in two parts that you have in front of you this is to 2021-23. All those in favor of the amendment, please hit the green light. All those opposed, please hit the red one. That passes unanimously except for Pat Campbell. Do I have that correct? Did I miss anybody? Appreciate that. Alderman Robertson, back to you on the main motion. Thank you. Any discussion on this? Alderman Collins.
I actually wanted to make another amendment that we exclude the Beatty Farm, or the property we refer to as Beatty Farm, from applying to this because there's already been quite a lot of work put into that naming process, and I think it would be very disrespectful to cut that off.
So help me figure out where we're going to put that. Would that be, maybe is that section 7?
I don't know. No idea.
Just excluding.
I mean, just,
In parentheses.
is Mr. Bradley in here?
Yeah, he is. He's
Yeah.
looking right now. So you add section 7?
You know, this is just an ordinance that creates a process. I mean, you
Well, I
know,
thought
this isn't.
didn't it say in here that this was to include all park naming starting July?
City structures.
When you get
themselves.
an ordinance in front of you that has a process that you're voting on and you want to exclude or include any parks in the city, you'll have your opportunity then. I think that's probably a better way to do it. This is just to look at process without looking at particular parks.
This doesn't prevent us from any
Right.
member to bring up to
That's right.
change the name. It doesn't prevent us at this time, so we can still do that right now.
And this is
We
just the
can still
process.
hear the suggestions
We could.
of the people who have been working so hard for Beatty Farm.
Absolutely.
And 7 people can decide to do that.
Yeah, regardless of what this other is. Yeah.
All right, I'm good then, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Collins. Thank you, John. All those in favor of ordinance 2021-23 as amended, please signify by saying aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Alderman Peterson. We'll vote by lights. Jason, can you get us set up? We'll vote electronically. All those in favor of ordinance 2021-23 as amended, please signify by hitting the green light. Those opposed, hit the red one. So that passes 9-4. Voting against, Alderman Petrelli, Alderman Skidmore, Alderman Cunningham, and Alderman Collins. On to the next item. Now we are on second and final reading of ordinance 2021-18. This is an ordinance abandoning an unused public right-of-way known as Dwight Sherlin Court. I so move. We have a second from Alderman Hayes. Am I correct on that? Alderman Waters? Okay. Any discussion on that? We'll just go with a voice vote here. All those in favor of second reading of ordinance 2021-18, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Now we have first reading of ordinance 2021-27. This is an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Hendersonville regarding building materials. I so move. Alderman Brown?
Second.
We have a second. We have an explanation prepared by Keith and Timothy. Do we need them to read anything specific?
No.
Okay, as Alderman Robertson.
I do want them to explain why we're doing this on the record.
I think it's good for residents to hear.
I really do.
Okay. Okay. Without objection, we're going to suspend the rules to hear from our Assistant Planning Director. Timothy, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. So the most recent session of the state legislature passed a law that did a couple of, kind of three main things that they did. That the law says that your zoning ordinance cannot prohibit any particular exterior building material. You can't have a prohibition on that. They also said if you do have any regulations pertaining to building materials, that you have to establish a waiver process for that. And then they then put a deadline on that, or the law takes effect September 1st, which gives us barely enough time to bring our ordinance into compliance with that state law. So what we have to do is any parts of our ordinance that strictly prohibit a material, we have to amend that section to remove that prohibition. And then any other sections that speak to building materials, we have to readopt those sections. So those are the two, Exhibit A and B in the ordinance. Exhibit A are all the ordinances that we need to readopt, and then Exhibit B are the amendments. And those amendments are removing any strict prohibitions against particular building materials such as vinyl or metal. And on those amendments, we've made the bare minimum changes to that, to those ordinances in order to get us into compliance with that state law. We've not monkeyed around with anything else. We've just kept it to just those bare changes needed. So that's basically what this does.
Alderman Robertson?
So what is the minimum requirement for vinyl or aluminum siding on new houses that we would approve?
So where that was prohibited before, that has been changed to allowing a maximum of 10%.
Is 10% the absolute lowest percent allowed by law? Can we go 5%?
You could, but after discussion with staff, with Keith about this, our feeling on it was that 10%, if you go lower than 10%, you could make an argument that you're really, in effect, prohibiting the material. Our thinking is 10% is really just the bare minimum that we should go to and still be in compliance with this.
So the state law is mandating this
Yes.
for local governments,
Yes, sir.
for lower jurisdictions.
Yes, sir.
They're mandating this.
That's correct.
And there's, okay.
Alderman Robertson, what you just did not say, I think all the rest of us agreed with. So, thank you.
Well, I wanted it said for the record.
Okay. Alderman Petrelli.
I'll say it. It seems like overreach. What is the impetus for this? What's the historical impetus? Why are they doing this? Just to help manufacturers or what? I mean, I don't want a bunch of metal buildings here in town.
I can't say, well, I believe there's the various lobbies, vinyl industry, maybe metal, but lobbyists are behind it.
Good old lobbyists, because that's what runs our country, isn't it? Lobbyists. So is the main impetus having to deal with vinyl? People want to see more vinyl?
I believe so. I believe that's the main driver.
Timothy, can you step forward a little bit?
Oh, yes, sir.
And
How much work is this going to cause our planning department? Quite a bit? Was there a fiscal note attached to this at the state level to compensate all of these jurisdictions that have to go through our codes?
it's a really good question. I don't know the answer to that one.
Why should we have to comply unless the state's paying for it?
The note for the state was zero. It was zero fiscal note for the state.
That's right,
Yeah.
exactly right. Who are the sponsors on this?
No idea.
On this ordinance?
Yes, at the state level.
Oh,
There have been multiple attempts to do something similar to this from multiple folks, and not just this past session.
yeah, I don't think I have the sponsors.
I'll be honest with you, I had not gotten a whiff of this at any point, and I am shocked at the overreach. This is absolutely shocking to me over a building material.
Well, to be clear, we still have our building design standards. We still have materials listed in there. It's just not stated in a way that makes it mandatory. So the Planning Commission still has discretion in their consideration of buildings and building materials. The ordinance just can't strictly prohibit it.
Okay.
Alderman Petrelli, we have an answer to your question. John?
Thank you.
Yes, it was sponsored by Representatives Boyd, Smith, Kiesling, Sparks, Lynn, Todd, and Manis.
Well, Ms. Lynn's going to get a little
And
email from me.
Senators Bell and Massey.
Appreciate that, John.
I'm really disappointed with this. I would like just a summary, not to burden you guys anymore, but just like how many hours you think that's going to take you to get all this stuff, if any?
Well, we've done the work. I mean, that's what the ordinance outlines, all of the sections and subsections that are needed to be amended or be readopted. So that's been done.
Okay. Well, do you think there's going to be any adverse reaction on our standards here in town? And this goes for renovations as well, right?
Everything, yes, ma'am. I hope it will be minimal. Again, the Planning Commission has discretion in their consideration of materials. We still got language in there about, your building needs to be considered in light of what's around it, be compatible with what's around it. So if you're building in the middle of Vinyl City, then it might be kind of hard to say, well, that's not compatible. And
Sure.
But there are ways to get to where we typically go. To be honest, we're not in as strong a position as we were.
Yeah, that's my concern. I mean, this is our city, and it concerns me. All right, thank you all.
Alderman Petrelli, thank you. Alderman Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Speaking of the percentages, you said 10%, correct?
Yes, sir.
This is the maximum allowable that we're looking to allow them to add vinyl to
That's
brick.
that's for single family, where
Single
there was, right, where there were prohibitions before.
Oh, I know there was on the prohibitions. I was just curious, though. I know me and Keith have had conversations in the past about coming down from the federal government, possibly those same restrictions being lifted from the federal government to the local government, so it would even take precedence over the state. But when you start talking about the vinyl siding, we have people right now that are upset on Ward 2 regarding some of the properties that have been sold. Say a house just recently next to me was sold, and it was actually 2 lots. So the new owner, or the previous owner, split off that 1 lot and sold that for a nice retirement, plus the house in general. And I know they're going to build a house on that corner lot. So now they can come in and basically put up, I realize they need to look around, but you have a combination of hardy board, brick, some vinyl, and actually OSB, I guess, is on the outside. It's just, decking type wood on the outside. It's been painted on some of those houses. So we could get all type of houses that could be thrown up. There are 2 lots right now that I'm looking at
Right.
within 250 feet of my house that possibly will have a house built on them. And now we're talking possibly that could be all built in vinyl or something along those lines.
Well, up to 10% vinyl.
So what if it's one of these houses that has exterior plywood, decorative plywood on it, not vinyl? It's wood. Because people are going to ask, because there's all this zoning change in Ward 2 that's been talked about, people are upset. They think that we're getting dumped on in Ward 2, and I'm trying to figure out how to answer their questions for them, because there's rules and regulations, and they think it only applies to our Ward 2 over there between Walton Ferry and Saunders Ferry, and I'm just trying to let them know that, no, that's not the case. But I need to be able to go back and tell them, here are the new rules that have just changed by your state legislature. So we're just trying to limit it to 10%, best we can, but we can't guarantee 10% will be the limit, correct?
That's correct. There is a waiver process as mandated by the law.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you, Alderman Campbell. Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. Timothy, what if we, what's the situation if we, for noncompliance? And is there a deadline on when we have to pass this ordinance? And what if we don't pass the ordinance?
Deadline is September 1st. If we don't pass it, then we are subject to having our zoning ordinance challenged. And I guess, having sections of it, or maybe the entire building design standards thrown out because they're not in compliance. So then we lose all control.
This is so I agree with my colleague. This is total overreach. I mean, you'd think we get overreached by the federal government. I mean, shame on our state government for doing this. Shame, shame, shame. But, so do we get like a fine or something, or?
I don't believe so. I'm not an expert on that. But I do know that anybody who wants to build in Hendersonville and our ordinance is not in compliance with state law, they could challenge it.
Hey, John,
So
help us
our-
out. Hold on, Alderman Cunningham, hold on.
Yeah, I would think that if we choose to violate a state law with our zoning ordinance, that city as big as Hendersonville, that we'll be sued by the contractors or the building manufacturer people that got this legislation passed, and they'll probably get an award of attorney's fees and order us to change our zoning ordinance and maybe, as he says, throw parts of it out. The problem we have is that all of our authority on zoning comes from the state of Tennessee. All of it. We have no inherent authority to even do zoning unless the legislature gives us the authority to do it. So as untasteful as it is, as much as we might not like it, they've got the right to do it, and we can't stop them. The only way to stop them is by the people we send to Nashville in the General Assembly, in the House and the Senate. It's the only way you stop them.
So our building standards in the city would not trump this?
No.
So why do we even have building standards for the city? Why not just adopt this as our building standard? I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, I mean, we've retained as much as we can, which is a substantial amount.
I'm very disappointed in our state legislation and our governor for signing this.
Alderman Cunningham,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Alderman Collins.
I may be shooting myself in the foot by asking this, but what does 10% look like? Like, if I have a 2-car garage with a vinyl
That's it.
door on it, how many,
That would be
how,
more than 10%.
that would be more than 10%?
Well, it depends on if it's,
The size of the house, but how big would the
It-
house be to compensate? That's a hard visual for me. Are we talking about if you have a vinyl garage door, your house would have to be 1,500 square feet ranch?
It would be pretty much limited to trim. It's 10%
So you can have vinyl
of each
trim.
face of the wall, is what it is. So, if you had say a water table, if you try to do vinyl that came up 3 feet and then a hardy board above that, that's probably going to exceed 10%. You might could do maybe a 2-foot, 2 foot from the ground up vinyl, and the rest of that is a more,
So in
hardy
practical
board or brick.
application, 10% is going to be very difficult to use in any
Right.
kind of
Right.
construction that would then be sellable.
Right.
So this is probably mostly about somebody adding on to their home or remodeling that might try to.
It's still, even the addition is gonna have to,
It'll still be.
it'll have to be, that
that's
10%
probably
is
who's
in the
going to
context of the
use
entire
this
home.
More than a builder. And, it is unfortunate because we receive this authority from the state, they have the right to limit that authority, and we're not happy with it, but it kind of is what it is. Thank you.
Alderman Collins, thank you. Alderman Skidmore.
Yeah, how are you all going to legislate this? Let's just say, for example, I don't even know, and this is my next question, like in Ward 1, we have a house that's burnt or been on fire, and the gentleman there is working on his own house. I'm not so sure, but I'm not going to go there, who it is and all that. I don't know if that's legal or not, or whether he's got his building license for that, but he's been out there on the weekends working on his house. So how do we legislate that? Like if we go in there and somebody says, well, it is not up to state standard, who are we really to say that we are or we not? I mean, with the code. Do what? I mean, how, somebody says, yeah, it's up to 10%, and he goes, no, it's not, this is 10%. Yeah, but what if they challenge codes and say, you don't know what you're talking about, or you need to measure this, and this is why it's 10%, and it's not? I mean, who's going to
Make a motion now?
where?
Yeah, in your case, that house would not be covered by these restrictions anyway. Like somebody in an
Okay.
existing house wouldn't be covered by these restrictions anyway. It would only apply to new development.
Okay, let me back up and just ask you this question. I know that we're almost literally beating a horse to death on this, although I do not support this, I'm still gonna have to vote for it, because the state legislature is telling me either you do it or all hell's gonna break loose. Sorry that I said that, shouldn't have, but you understand what I'm talking about. So we've got let's just say we've got an empty lot somewhere in Ward 1, and somebody wants to build, he buys the lot, and it's just a single family, or it's just there, and so they're building it. Who is gonna legislate, who is going to say whether it's correctly built or not?
Well,
under those guidelines, under these guidelines that they've mandated from Nashville.
So again, a vacant lot in an existing subdivision wouldn't be subject to this anyway.
Okay. Why not? It's a new build.
Steve says it's 10.
It's what, three or more houses?
Three or more houses.
Okay, well, look, I'm not gonna argue it, but if I do ever have that happen in Ward, I'm coming to you guys to explain this to me. I mean, I have an idea. I think this is terrible legislation. It really is for local government. And I just say it for municipalities, period. Terrible legislation. But, that's why I'm sitting here in Hendersonville tonight at about almost 10 o'clock, or,
You're next.
talking about it. And Timothy, I do want to say this. You do excellent work. I watched you last night, and I've watched you over the years, and I don't know if I've probably told that to you because I am impressed with you. Don't leave us. And that goes for you too, Mr. Faria. That goes for you too. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Alderman Skidmore, thank you. Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Timothy, I might as well praise you too. Everybody's been praising you all night. You did some really good work, and a lot of it. So you're not the most loved guy in the city because you I told somebody the other day that Timothy is right down the line, buddy. You're not going to get him on the left, you're not going to get him on the right. He's going to follow the rules, and I appreciate that. It's aggravating sometimes, but I appreciate it. I think it's overreach too, and I don't really like it, but we kind of have to do what we have to do to protect what we got, and we have to do it in a time frame that we can get it done, and that's why we did this tonight. One question I want to ask is, everything that we have on the books, Forest Park, some of those other things that are building or going to be built, are they grandfathered in at what are old? Or are they in, or will they be in this, or you could say, I don't know, and I'll find out.
Well, right. Yeah, anything into planned development, those are locked in.
Okay.
Outside of a planned development,
Probably no.
they'd be under our current, whatever this ends up being.
Okay, so if it's in a planned development, those folks are okay, they won't have to comply with this 10%. And there's a lot of them out there. We probably don't want to get in that discussion. Okay, thanks, appreciate it.
Alderman Brown, thank you. Alderman Robertson.
Yeah, I've talked way too much tonight. I apologize, but I have, Timothy, just one question. The 10%, evidently, that's as good as we can get that you think can pass muster. My question, though, is I'm concerned about the provision of waivers. What is the staff going to use as a criteria for granting waivers? For example, somebody is rehabbing a house in one of our wards, and they come in, they say, we want to do 100% vinyl siding on this house, and we want to request a waiver. So what criteria are you going to use for waiver, and will this board or some committee be apprised of all of the waivers that we will be granting? So that's a two-part question, I guess.
So for anything that goes through site plan review, commercial, industrial, multifamily, things like that, the waiver process is the same as it always has been. The Planning Commission's always been, and has always had the leeway to waive building design standards.
But I guess my question, since this legislation, does the staff feel more inclined to be a little more liberal in its waivers process?
Well, it would be the Planning Commission considering those waivers, not staff.
Okay, okay.
So that would be up to them.
Okay. Mayor, and just last part, Mayor, I don't know if this is appropriate or not. It appears that we do need an affirmative vote on this, but I was wondering if you would mind, on behalf of this board, sending a letter to our legislative delegation as carefully as you would word that, just expressing our unanimous displeasure with this legislation, and we feel it's overreach and preemption that could be to the detriment of our community. Would you be willing to draft a letter to our delegation?
Happy to do that, and I'm embarrassed I haven't done it yet.
Well, that's okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay. Alderman Campbell. Thank you,
Thank you,
Alderman
Mr.
Robertson.
Chairman. One other question I have regarding this state mandates. Would this possibly impact community development block grant money or other grants or other state aid that we might receive? I mean, if we did not comply with this, could they say, hey, there's some financial reasons to? I know there's other things that have, if we don't pass certain rules that the state has, it can impact us financially. So I just want to make sure there's not something out there that we're not aware of.
I don't think so. Not with additional legislation, probably.
With CDBG, okay. That's why I was just curious. I just went down that path because I know we've talked about it with other legislation that they pass. So thank you.
Alderman Campbell, thank you. Alderman Petrelli.
Thank you, Mayor. In the second whereas, it says, whereas the purpose of the design review guidelines includes, but it's not limited to, improving the aesthetics, appearance, and of development throughout the city of Hendersonville, providing a document that builds upon existing ordinances and regulations and communicates the design expectations of the city of Hendersonville. Mr. Bradley, can that just be removed? Do you legally need this in here? Because, I don't agree with that. paragraph at all.
Whereases are not part of the ordinance. We put them in there just for explanation, but they're not a part of what you're voting on. You're voting on the ordained part.
Okay, then I'd like to make an amendment just to remove that second whereas paragraph.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, so we're removing the third paragraph, the second paragraph that has whereas,
Correct.
okay? We are past the point where Alderman Brown and I can just remove that since it's on the floor. But I'll venture to say that I don't have a problem with that. Alderman Brown gives a thumbs up. Anybody wish to discuss that item? All those in favor of removing the third paragraph, which is the second whereas paragraph, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. Thank you. Thank you, Alderman Petrelli. Anything else?
Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate that. Anybody else wishing to speak on this item? All those in favor of ordinance 2021-27 as amended, please signify by saying aye. Okay, we'll do electronics. Sorry, I know sometimes I confuse y'all. Jason, can you get us ready? This is ordinance 2021-27 as amended. Those in favor, please hit your green button. Those opposed, please hit the red one. Hold on. The suspense was just.
Happy with yourself.
Thank you, Jason. Oh, my word. So that passes. We have a negative vote from Alderman Peterson, Alderman Cunningham, and we have an abstention from Alderman Robertson and Alderman Hayes. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have enough people to consider it a majority. So that passes. That's a 9-2 with 2 abstention vote. Next we have, I believe we're resolution 2021. We are resolution 2021-32. This is a resolution to adopt the 2021 City of Hendersonville, Tennessee Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Alderman Brown.
So moved.
We have a motion from Alderman Brown, a second, I believe, from Alderman Petrelli. Any discussion on this? Can we just vote by voice? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Now we have Resolution 2021-35. This is a resolution to apply for the Local Parks and Recreation Fund, also known as LPRF, for grant for various projects in city parks. Alderman Brown.
So moved.
We have a motion from Alderman Brown, a second from Alderman Petrelli. Alderman Peterson.
Do we have the match in place for this grant?
It's probably a Robert, is that an Andy question? Go ahead. What we're sort of doing is we're sort of telling them that we will have the match in place if we awarded the grant, but go ahead, Andy.
That's correct. What he said is correct. You're giving us permission to apply for the grant. When we find out if we have it, we then have 2 to 3 years to complete the projects. As we complete each project is when we will have to appropriate the funds to do that.
We can't apply for the grant unless we make some commitment that we'll fund it.
I understand. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question. I'm looking for a voice vote on this unless somebody jumps up and screams. All those in favor of Resolution 2021-35, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Now we have a vote on the reappointment of Roy Jones to the Personnel Board. We have a motion from Alderman Petrelli, a second from Alderman Edwards. All those in favor, please signify. All those in favor of reappointing Roy Jones to the Personnel Board, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Okay, Annette? The motion was from Alderman Cunningham and Alderman Edwards. Am I correct? Okay. Okay.
It was a female voice.
Okay. Brief committee reports. Chairman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. General Committee met tonight. We approved our minutes from June 8th, 2021 unanimously. We took up ordinance 2021-26, an ordinance rezoning. You probably heard about that, I'd say, in the last week or two. 216 Sanders Ferry Road. That will be coming before you on August the 10th. We moved that forward with a unanimous neutral vote. We did not vote yes or no. We just sent it to the board. Ordinance 2021-27, an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Hendersonville regarding building materials. You just took that up a minute ago. An ordinance establishing a consent agenda for meetings of the board and mayor and aldermen. That was passed unanimously. That should make us a little bit smoother and faster. Ordinance 2021-29, an ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code for peddlers and solicitors. That will be before you, and that will be forming a no solicitors bank. That if you don't want them on your doorstep, you can join that bank and get that information, and they will have it. The solicitor will have it. Resolution 2021-37, ratifying park policies, procedures of the city of Hendersonville. That was passed unanimously. That is all we have. Thank you.
Chairman Brown, thank you. Chairman Campbell, Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had a discussion this evening, ordinance 2019-31, discussion of use of safety cones by vendors who leave the vehicles on the roadway unattended while performing work, basically yard work in your neighborhood and stuff. We've been having complaints of 2 and 3 people pulling up to cut grass at the same time in a neighborhood. And if they park on opposite sides of the street, they've just blocked your road basically, and a fire truck would have a hard time coming through there. And also, they should also mark those vehicles with cones, and we're bringing that information back out to help those vendors understand that. And then we have a discussion on resolution 2021-38, discussion of carryover funds for fiscal year 21 and fiscal year 22 for the gun range for the police department. They're in the process of building a gun range. We're the largest municipality in the city or the county that does not have its own gun range, and we are in the process of building that up here in Hendersonville, and it's well underway, and so far they're under budget. That's a great thing. So, and then we also have ordinance discussion 2021-29, discussion of amending the municipal code concerning peddlers, solicitors, which Alderman Brown spoke about just a moment ago, and we would love to put that in place. And if also if a company is in violation of that, and they can lose their license, their ability to sell door to door in Hendersonville for 6 months if they do not comply with that list. So trying to put some teeth in it to where it actually means something to a company to follow the rules. And discussion on the deer and herd enforcement, talking about deer herd. We've had that now for about 7 years in our city, and Oliver Berry came and spoke with us tonight. He reiterated the United States Department of Agriculture will not want to do anything for us unless we are actually enforcing our rules and regulations, such as do not feed deer, and enforcing the do not feed deer ordinance that we have in place, and educate the public. So we need to educate, work more on putting on maybe Channel 3 some information regarding on do not feed the deer. We've also in the past we've had the TWRA, the state biologist, and the Nashville Zoo biologist come and talk to us about the reasons why we do not need to be feeding deer and their migration habits and what we do when we do feed the deer. So we've had quite in depth, if you've been on this board very long at all, you've been through all those meetings, but we're also going to bring those back and have some other conversations here at the board level so people understand. Now, everybody says, well, let's just sterilize the deer. That's not easy to do. We start putting out stuff to sterilize the deer, it runs off into the water supply and might cause a problem with the human being. Then if you want to start talking about thinning the herd, as in having a culling of the herd, every other person in here is going to give you a different opinion. You're going to have a petting zoo, but one person, take them out, let's go hunting the next person. So it's a very hot topic. Me as an alderman, one of the first votes I had to take was dealing with the deer herd. And I will tell you right now, it was 50-50 split, husband and wives totally opposed, and you'd be surprised who would be opposed. Let's kill them, let's pet them. I mean, that's exactly what you get. So anyways, exactly, Bambi. So anyways, we're working on that, trying to bring the, keep the deer herd issue to the forefront and continue to educate our public. And that's my committee report, sir. Thank you.
Chairman Campbell, thank you. Alderman Peterson, Planning Commission.
Thank you, Mayor. Planning Committee met last week and had several rezoning items come up on the agenda. And I would like, if I may, Director Free to come up and speak on some of those items and give an update on the minutes. In in case there's questions, he's more qualified to answer those than I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. It was a very interesting meeting. It was on July the 6th. We had our Planning Commission meeting. I think it's the most viewed YouTube meeting that we've had. There's quite a few views on it. Some of the things that were discussed on that meeting and determined, the Sanders Ferry Adult Living Community, that's the 216 Sanders Ferry. The future land use amendment failed to change the character area from suburban to Old Town character area. Also, that same project, Sanders Ferry Adult Living Community, a combined preliminary development plan and final development plan, that also received a denial as well. And then there were two site plans, one for Dobson's Triplex at 216 Walton Ferry and KWSA accessory building and parking lot at 127 Walton Ferry. And then also the item that was before you tonight that Timothy did a great job of explaining, the zoning ordinance and text amendment and readoption of building materials, that passed from the Planning Commission. And so those were all the items that were discussed at the Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you. Anything else,
Thank you.
Alderman Peterson? Okay. Alderman Campbell, do you have a question, or do you want to go back to your?
Triplex on Walton Ferry Road, that is related to the Old Town Center planned unit development over there. That's why they can put that triplex on that property. Is that correct?
That's correct. I think there's 4 triplexes on that property, and it is currently zoned Old Town Residential.
That's what I want to make sure that people
Yes.
understand. It is something that's happened in the past. It's just now taken care of, being placed in.
And that is within our area of where we're looking to do the West Main Street Old Town redevelopment plan to look at all the land uses and look at zoning within that area. And so we're working with a consultant right now to,
Yes, sir.
with a scope of services. So hopefully we'll get that agreement here in the next week and start the process on that plan. Our goal is to hopefully by before July of next year, that we'll have that plan fully approved and start aggressive implementation on it.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Alderman Campbell, thank you. Alderman Petrelli, a question on this report?
I just want to thank Director Free for working on that, the zoning overview. We've been discussing that for almost 2 years, and COVID kind of put a squish in it. So I appreciate how aggressively you're moving forward with that now. Thank you.
Alderman Petrelli, thank you. Keith, thank you. Alderman Peterson, thank you also. I want to give you an update on our committee that's considering with the Sumner County Fire Service Memorandum of Understanding. We have met a couple times, I think, since that committee was formed. Several great ideas, great deal of input from the folks on that committee, which is Alderman Robertson, Alderman Campbell, myself, John Bradley, and Chief Bush and his staff. What we have been able to do is come up with a draft memorandum of understanding. I've had conversations with Mayor Holt and with County Commissioner Chris Taylor. Those have been very positive. What we are asking, or what they came to us for, was a longer and stronger commitment to our fire protection outside the city limits. And what we have gone to them with is that we have asked them to pay for Fire Hall number 7. We've asked for them to pay for the new engine for Fire Hall number 7, as well as provide 10% contingency money for the construction of that. We've committed to going maximum 4.5 miles outside of our area right now, outside of our city limits right now. 4.5 miles from the actual Fire Hall. At a maximum, there's some places it doesn't go quite that far because we bump into some city limits and some other topographical challenges. We're looking for a 12-year agreement from this, but they've also asked us to provide ambulance space and space for their personnel to staff that ambulance. They would be moving, if this works out, they'd be moving from the volunteer fire hall down to Fire Hall number 7, which in my opinion benefits us. We will have more ambulance personnel and more equipment inside the city limits of Hendersonville. We would then have 4 ambulances and ambulance staffs at least inside the city of Hendersonville. I very much appreciate the committee members with the ideas and the input they've given, and I think we've got something that that is very workable and I think is very reasonable for the county to come back and say yes to. So thank you all. Thank you all.
Congratulations.
Oh, sorry, Alderman Robertson.
I think another important I'd like for you to mention, you mentioned it us, that the county's willing to change some of their zoning laws.
Very good
I
point.
think that's a real important
Very good point. And I don't know which member of the committee came up with this, but what we've asked is that we expect that the committee in this, it's not really a radius, it's more of a blob outside the city, that we have asked that they adopt our fire codes. The reason for that is that if our firefighters are going to fight fires outside the city limits, they need to be protected and have the same safety measures in place outside, if that's what we expect them to go do. And that means that they need to have fire hydrants within a certain distance. They need to have the same expectations of codes, and that they need to have the water pressure and several other expectations that we have inside the city. And I feel confident that the county's going to adopt those. Did you have okay. Any questions on that? Appreciate it. Thank you for that. Thank you. Now we have Jesse.
Thank you. That was a very interesting meeting today. It was it's just nice to be a part of it. Seems like we're running full tilt here at the city. We have 7 positions that are currently open. So if you know of people who are looking for positions, our city website has 7 that are currently open. Just a housekeeping item. On August 2nd, we're going to extend City Hall hours till 4:30. Currently, they're 4. But we thought it was a way to serve our community by adding an extra half of an hour on to the time that we're open to the public. So we'll be doing that August 2nd, and I believe I will be the 10th or 12th person to say thank you to Timothy and Keith for getting Ordinance 2127 on so quickly. Not a maybe popular decision, but from a staff's perspective, excellent job on getting it on. So please tell Timothy thank you. If you can pull up the city website, one of the things that we're trying to do is just make the information that we have apparent and easy to understand. So one of the things that you guys will notice now, which we'll go to this first, this was a great idea that Alderman Collins had about putting our resolutions and ordinances online. So if you go to our city website now, if you go under About Us, City Government, Board of Mayor and Aldermen, you can click, he's going, let's see, you got control of it. So you can go down where it's highlighted, it says ordinances and resolutions. So our staff, Erica Miller and Charday Robinson, have been working, and I believe they already have 3 years of ordinances and resolutions online. So this will reduce the amount of public records requests we get. Staff time won't be spent for public records requests. It's online. Everyone can see the information. In addition to that, you will start to see more and more of these staff reports in your packet that I'm holding up here. And that is just in an effort for whether you're an alderman or you're just a citizen in the city to summarize what's going on without having to read 200 pages of a planning document. We can summarize it in a page or two. So you will continue to see these used at the committee level, and then they'll come on to the BOMA level as well. That's all I have. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Jesse. Any questions for Jesse? Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. Jesse, did you give an update on the search for our Public Works Director?
Hold on. There you go.
Or could you, please?
Yeah, so Mr. Boyd's last day was Friday. We wish him the best. He has a job with the county. In the interim, Sarah Locke has agreed to step into that role as the interim director to do the day-to-day things that we need a director for. The posting went live pretty much as fast as we can get it out once we learned of Mr. Boyd's resignation. So we're actively searching on many platforms for a public works director. So that's in the process. And that recruitment will stay open until the position's filled.
Okay. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Alderman Cunningham. My report was included in the packet, and I'll continue to send emails as there's an opportunity to do that. Alderman Edwards. We have a motion to adjourn from Alderman Edwards and a second from
Campbell.
From Alderman Campbell. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. We're adjourned. Thank you.